In this lifetime, I deliberately orchestrated every missed encounter with Hu Chongting. He stayed in Chicheng while I ventured into the Gobi. When he followed me to the desert, I locked myself away in a classified facility. On my deathbed, he knelt outside my hospital room begging for one final glimpse. I ignored him, using my last ounce of strength to scribble down the missile trajectory equation before I passed away. He stood before my grave, his hair turning white overnight, crying as he asked, Su Jiwei, why did you abandon me in this life? Hu Chongting and I were a study in contrasts. I, a powerless country girl from the mountains, he, a young and promising military camp commander. Our paths were never meant to cross. The only reason I married into the Hu family was their debt of gratitude. My father had saved his father's life on the battlefield. On their wedding day, Qi Mushua's husband Lin Hai died on a mission he took in Hu Chongting's stead. In return, Hu vowed to care for Qi and her daughter forever, another act of Hu family repayment. Hu Chongting kept telling me, I gave up my chance to attend university, condemning myself to a lifetime confined within the Hu family's walls, serving in-laws, raising children. After a decade of tending to my bedridden mother-in-law, her dying words to me were, Jiwei, you've held Chongting back for years. The Hu family has repaid our debt to you, let go. Even my own daughter said, Mom, you're utterly unworthy of Dad, your arranged marriage is feudalistic garbage, step aside so Dad and Aunt Qi can finally be together. All my sacrifices meant nothing in their eyes. After seeing off both elderly parents, I initiated the divorce. With temples gone gray, I returned alone to the countryside. That stormy night, the dilapidated old house collapsed as its walls gave way, crushed beneath the rubble. I met my end. A life that had meant nothing. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day my mother's belongings were returned. Comrade Jean dedicated her entire life to the nation. Her contributions will be remembered, but as the plan is not yet complete and everything remains classified, we cannot publicly acknowledge her achievements. Comrade Su, are you listening to us? Snapping back to reality, I saw the worried faces of two soldiers reflected in my eyes. Comrade Zhang suffered severe full-body radiation exposure. We couldn't recover her ashes. This is all that remains of her. Two soldiers solemnly handed me a battered wooden box with heavy hearts. My hands trembled uncontrollably as I stared at that box. After father's sacrifice, the mother whom villagers gossiped had run off with another man, she finally returned to me in this cruel way. As the two soldiers left, they handed me 30 yuan along with a stack of fabric ration coupons and grain tickets. That 30 yuan was the blood money my mother paid with her life. The ration coupons were what she'd scrimped and saved for me over the years. In my past life, I never understood why she abandoned me to bear the shame and disappear into that death trap she knew too well. But in this lifetime, stroking the wooden box, I made my resolve. Comrade, I shall fulfill my mother's dying wish, to serve our motherland in the Gobi Desert. When my mentor received the news, the fury he'd once felt over my abandoning university studies transformed into profound tenderness. Jiwei, your mother's final wish was for you to live an ordinary life, to marry, raise children, and find simple happiness. A dutiful wife and loving mother, is that what happiness means? In my past life, I did honor my mother's dying wish to live an ordinary life, and where did that get me? I shook my head with a faint smile. Professor, all I want is to one day reunite my mother with my father in a proper burial, with dignity and without shame, until our plan succeeds. My mother will forever bear this disgrace, no one will ever know of her sacrifice. The teacher fell silent, too. Finally, he relented. What about Battalion Commander Hua? I recalled that handsome man with an air of unyielding determination. Him, a mocking smile tugged at the corner of my lips. I'll divorce him. As for that daughter who never got the chance to enter this world, she always resented me for giving birth to her, for denying her the paternal love Lin Lin received, and for standing between Hu Chongting and the woman he truly loved, Auntie Qi. In that case, perhaps never being born would have better suited her expectations. My teacher looked at me with mixed emotions, knowing full well how deeply I loved that man, enough to give up university for him. How could I possibly let go completely? Deal, 1 month's probation, pass the assessment, and you're coming to the Gobi with me. I understood, he ultimately wanted to preserve the Su family bloodline. A month's time, my window for second thoughts. I grabbed my fountain pen and slashed a heavy X across the calendar. Turning around, I saw Hu Chongting, the man who'd claimed to be too busy that morning to accompany me to collect my mother's belongings was now walking into the supply cooperative arm in arm with Qi Mushue. The man stood ramrod straight in his military uniform, radiating an aura of heroic dignity. The woman wore a red dress, exuding graceful intellect and tender charm. That red dress was bought by Hu Changting at the department store. Just one day before my birthday, my gaze fell upon the fountain pen in my hand, the very one Hu Changting had gifted me on his wedding day. It's one of the few gifts he ever gave me, and I've always cherished it, keeping it close to my heart. When I looked up again, the two had already stepped inside. Hu Changting held the door open like a true gentleman, while Qi Muxue thanked him with graceful poise. Their eyes met in a warm, harmonious moment. Our eyes met for just a second, and we both froze momentarily. In the past, I'd always duck away to avoid the awkwardness, letting my colleagues handle them instead, but today, I stood my ground, a faint smile playing on my lips as I took the initiative. What can I get for you two? Hu Changting's brow furrowed slightly. He probably didn't expect me to be this bold today, his probing gaze sweeping over me. I ignored him, my eyes locking directly onto Qi Muxue. Qi Muxue turned to seek Hu Changting's opinion. What do you think would be a good birthday gift for Lin Lin? Her tone sounded like a wife consulting her husband. I wasn't the only one who thought so. My colleagues noticed it too. That's precisely why I chose not to acknowledge Hu Changting. Hearing Qi Muxue's inquiry, Hu Changting finally shifted his gaze toward the counter. Last time I promised to get her a doll. In high spirits, Qi Muxue shot me a sly glance. Comrade, I'll take that one. I turned around, picked up the doll and placed it before them. 5 yuan 50. Hu Changting naturally picked up the tab. As they left, Hu Changting glanced back at me once more, lips parting as if to speak. I deliberately avoided his gaze, busying myself with tidying the counter. After a brief hesitation, he followed Qi Muxue out the door. A nosy co-worker sidled up, gazing dreamily at their retreating figures. They make such a perfect couple. I looked up at the departing pair and smiled. Indeed they do. One was the youngest high-ranking officer of exceptional promise in the military district. The other a doctor returned from abroad who commanded universal respect. You'd be hard-pressed to find a more perfect match than them in all of Qiqing. After work, I went to the back door to take out the trash. Hu Changting leaned against the wall, having waited for who knows how long. He probably didn't want others to know about our relationship either. That's why he always met me at the back entrance. I've ordered some dishes at the state-run restaurant. Let's go together. In the past, I would have been overjoyed. After decades together in our previous lives, I could count our dining out invitations on one hand, but today, I merely offered a faint, indifferent smile and casually replied, "All right." My lack of refusal seemed to ease Hu Changting's tension, the tight line of his lips gradually relaxing. He opened the passenger door for me, but just as I was about to get in, I spotted Qi Muxue's bag shamelessly occupying the front seat. The corner of my mouth twitched. "I'll just take the back seat." Hu Changting noticed it too, looking slightly embarrassed as he turned to open the rear door for me instead. "Are you upset? Was it because I didn't stay with you this morning?" He attributed my unusual behavior today to that. "Not mad," I replied. We rarely had time alone together, and whenever we did, I'd want to tell him everything. But today, I couldn't bring myself to say a single word. Noticing my distress, Hu Changting continued to explain. Dr. Qi lost a patient this morning. She was devastated and frightened. So I accompanied her. I promised Lin Hai I'd look after his wife and daughter. It's also my military assignment. Truth be told, when I was summoned to collect my mother's belongings, I trembled with fear. I grabbed his arm and asked if he could come with me. 3. But my husband didn't even wait for me to finish my request before rushing off. In my past life, Hu Changting often told me there was nothing between him and Qi Muxue, swearing on his military honor that he would never betray me. Yet Qi Muxue always came before me. Even after our child was born, Lin Lin still took precedence over our child, and even when we went to the amusement park, our own daughter was only occasionally brought along as an afterthought. It's quite meaningless, truly. In my past life, pretending to be that magnanimous was truly exhausting, but now, I don't have to pretend anymore, because I genuinely don't care. She's the wife of your lifesaver, it's only right, I said with a smile. Hu Changting let out a slight sigh of relief. As they arrived at the state-run restaurant, a light rain began to fall. Just as expected, Qi Muxue was there too. "Ji Wei, you're here." Qi Muxue's smile was radiant and poised, but the moment I sat down, she abruptly stood up with an apologetic look, addressing Hu Changting. "The hospital just scheduled me for an urgent surgery. Changting, could you please drive me back first?" Hu Changting glanced at me. "Can't we finish dinner first?" Of course Chimu Shui refused. This was her signature way of provoking me. It's such a simple trick, yet Hu Chongting seems to fall for it every time. If you're busy, I can go by myself. Her apology was perfectly timed, and she turned to leave right after. Hu Chongting immediately got up, turned back to me, and said, "Wait for me, I'll be right back." On our wedding day, Chi Mushiwe called saying Lin Hai was in trouble. He abandoned me right then, uttering those exact words. That day, I became the laughingstock of the entire military compound. Those idle aunties and wives might seem kind to your face, but they never stopped gossiping behind my back. 3 days later, he returned, but his first words to me weren't "I'm sorry." Instead, he pleaded, "Ji Wei, wait for me, let me figure things out." That night was supposed to be our long-awaited wedding night, yet he moved to the guest room instead. Back then, I naively believed he hadn't recovered from the grief of Lin Hai sacrificing himself on his mission. I was willing to wait for him. It wasn't until Chi Mushiwe repeatedly came to provoke me that I finally understood what he truly needed to figure out. Chi Mushiwe was his first love. With Lin Hai around before, he had no choice but to give her up and marry me. But now Lin Hai was gone, Chi Mushiwe became single again, and Lin Hai's last wish was for him to take care of their mother and daughter for life. He needed to decide, would he choose me or her? Hu Chongting strode off to get the car. "Ji Wei, I'm sorry for interrupting your dinner with Chongting again." Chi Mushiwa's smile finally betrayed a hint of smugness and disdain. It seemed to say, "So what if Hu Chongting chose you? I'll always come first in his heart." I paid no attention to her provocation, had lunch alone. As the rain grew heavier, crowds rushed for shelter while I walked straight into the downpour. No one's ever shielded me from life's storms, and I don't need anyone to. In this lifetime, I'll wait for no one, not even Hu Chongting. Hu Chongting rushed back to the state-run canteen. The food was still there, but the figure that would always wait for him whenever he turned around had vanished. For a fleeting moment, Hu Chongting felt disoriented. A staff member approached and asked, "Battalion Commander Hua, would you like to continue your meal? Clear it away." Hu Chongting turned and walked away, his retreating figure looking desolate. That afternoon, I submitted my resignation letter to the higher-ups. My superior looked puzzled. "Comrade Su, you've been diligent and responsible in your work. We were actually planning to promote you." Just then, Hua's mother called, "Ji Wei, today's Lin's birthday. She loves your cooking. Why don't you take the day off? It's not like your job matters much anyway." True, this job really isn't that important. A year ago, on the day of my college entrance exams, Hua's mother fell down the stairs when no one was home. I called Hu Chongting, but his subordinate said he was away on a mission. It was pouring rain that day, couldn't hail a cab. With no other choice, I carried Hua's mother 5 kilometers to the hospital. I missed the exam, only to learn the next day that Hu Chongting's assignment was accompanying Chi Mushiwe shopping at the department store. The returnee doctor, the only genuinely dedicated one, claimed mastery of advanced Western medical techniques. The higher-ups really value talent like this. While it's true that the higher-ups requested protection be assigned, and the task was indeed given to Lin Hai's most trusted subordinate, it didn't necessitate Hu Chongting's personal involvement. Any trusted aide by his side could have easily handled such a mission. That was the first time he ever apologized to me. For that single apology, I willingly gave up my chance to go to university. Later, the Hua family pulled some strings to get me this insignificant job. The manager who received Mrs. Hua's call seemed somewhat embarrassed, but mostly regretful. She patted my shoulder like a kindly elder. "Sacrificing a bit for family is understandable, but don't casually abandon your career. People are judgmental creatures. Even those who love you will weigh your social worth." She'd been burned before and didn't want me making the same mistake. And haven't I squandered my entire life on this? My nose tingled with emotion. "Thank you, I'll remember that." As I packed up and left the supply cooperative, a colleague came running after me. "Ji Wei, you forgot something." I looked. It was the fountain pen I'd carried with me till the day I died in my past life. "Keep it. Didn't you always admire this?" My colleague was delighted. While I felt one less tethered to my past, I returned to the Hua residence with my mother's keepsakes. Right after getting our marriage certificate with Hu Chongting, I moved out of the Hua family home. The meal was just ready when Hu Chongting and Chi Mushiwe walked through the front door holding Lin's hands. Spotting me in the kitchen, Hu Chongting gracefully approached and took the dish from my hands. "Why did you leave when I came back at noon?" "Don't worry about me, you're busy," I replied. A sudden emptiness washed over Hu Chongting. He paused mid-step, about to speak when Chi Mushiue entered. "Let me help you, Jiwei," Kamuksha said with a smile. I handed her a plate of food. Mrs. Hu came downstairs just then and hurried over to take the hot dish from her hands. "Oh dear, don't move around like that, what if you get burned?" "These hands perform delicate surgeries," Chi Mushiue said sheepishly. "I noticed Jiwei's been so busy, don't worry about it, that's literally her job." My hands froze mid-motion. Hu Chongting frowned. When he returned, he whispered in my ear, "Mom didn't mean anything by it." I chuckled. "I know, she was simply worried about Chi Mushiue's hands, those skilled surgeons' hands honed abroad. She just genuinely believed this was all I was good for." As dishes were served, Lin Lin seated Chi Mushiue and Hu Chongting on either side of her. Hu Chongting casually pulled out the chair beside him and looked at me. For a fleeting moment, his eyes held a quiet determination, as if bracing for my refusal. Pretending not to notice, I took the seat next to him. The corners of his lips lifted slightly as he placed a morsel of food in my bowl. Lin Lin pouted in displeasure, stabbing her rice bowl twice with obvious irritation, which she mouthed at me silently. I pretended not to notice. "Chongting, do you remember Cambridge's River Cam?" Kamuksha suddenly reminisced about their 2 years studying at Cambridge. It was there that 16-year-old Hu Chongting fell head over heels for 19-year-old Kamuksha at first sight, though at the time, the aloof princess didn't take a fancy to her rigid and reserved junior. Those 2 years seemed to be Hu Chongting's happiest and most memorable time. Before long, a gentle smile appeared on Hu Chongting's face, and he became more talkative. I could never contribute to such conversations, so I just quietly ate my meal. As the conversation continued, Chi Mushiue suddenly switched to speaking in English. I knew she was doing it on purpose. She probably assumed I was the only one present who couldn't speak English. Even 4-year-old Lin Lin could spout a couple of words. Little did they know, I'd been assisting teachers with English translations 2 years prior. These petty jealousy games simply weren't worth my time. Just like her calculated trips to the supply cooperative with Hu Chongting. Yes, it was awkward, but I never feared her. My only concern was protecting Hu's reputation if our relationship came to light. After all, the Hu family raised me for years. However unhappy this marriage might be, I couldn't ruin their only son. Chi Mushiue's laughter filled the entire dining table. Cambridge marked Chi Mushiue's finest hour and became a shared memory with Hu Chongting. At every remarkable moment, Hu Chongting would gaze at her quietly, a tender smile playing on his lips. His eyes held a restrained yet shimmering glow. It's delight, it's admiration, the way a man looks at a woman. "Old mister." Hu cleared his throat loudly, cutting short their animated conversation. "Dinner's ready." Only then did Hu Chongting realize his impropriety. He turned to me and casually served me a portion of food. Once again, I saw that familiar guilt in his eyes. Indeed, whenever his mind wandered, he'd feel remorse toward me. My stomach suddenly churned, and I rushed to the restroom. At that moment, I just couldn't hold it in. After emptying my stomach, I turned around to see Hu Chongting offering a handkerchief. I declined. "No need, thanks." He awkwardly stuffed the handkerchief into his pocket. "Old Hu, haven't you noticed?" In the study, Mrs. Hu discussed the dinner table incident with Mr. Hu. "Chongting only talks this much when he's with Mushiue. Look how little joy he shows around Jiwei. If they postponed the wedding, what nonsense are you spouting now?" Mr. Hu snapped. Mrs. Hu pursed her lips. "It's not that I think Jiwei is a bad girl, I just want our son to be happy. Life's too short. I won't let my son waste his entire future repaying some ridiculous family debt of yours." 5. My raised hand paused before knocking. Truth be told, I could tell them right now, I'm willing to divorce, to set Hu Chongting free so he can chase his own happiness, but the Hu family can't afford the scandal of ingratitude. They'd never agree to the divorce for this reason. More likely, they'd accuse me of making unreasonable demands and drag this mess out endlessly. I just want to get through this last month in peace. I knocked on the door anyway. The sounds inside abruptly stopped. The door opened from within. Mrs. Hu's smile faltered. She wasn't sure if I had overheard her. I was completely unfazed. I couldn't care less what she thought of me anymore. I told them I was resigning to prepare for an exam. They assumed I was taking the college entrance exam, so they naturally had no objections. Before leaving, Mrs. Hu held my hand with a hint of guilt on her face. "Jiwei dear, when are you and Chongting planning to have children? A child might help him focus more on family." This was my mother-in-law's way of giving me advice. I gave Mrs. Hu a casual nod, turning around. I collided straight into Hu Chongting's chest. His chest felt like a brick wall, his entire body tense and visibly uncomfortable. Only he and I knew we hadn't crossed that line. He must have overheard Madame Hu's remarks. That explained his awkwardness, how he couldn't even meet my eyes. Maybe I should move back to the master bedroom, he said abruptly. A flush crept all the way to the tips of his ears. My heart remained utterly still, devoid of any ripples of emotion. Don't take what Mom said just now seriously. Hu Chongting's roving eyes suddenly locked onto me. Don't, you want to. I gazed at him, smiling without a word. He seemed furious, his cheeks flushed crimson with rage. My words must have wounded his male pride, after he'd been so generous as to share a room with me. And here I was rejecting his kindness. He stormed downstairs, leaving me nothing but an angry silhouette. Unfazed, I went to collect my mother's keepsakes before leaving, but the wooden box was no longer in its usual spot. My heart skipped a beat as I rushed to find Lin Lin. Sure enough, she'd somehow taken that wooden box without me noticing. Just as she was opening it to rummage inside, I snatched it back. Who said you could touch this? Lin Lin pouted and rolled her eyes, but when her gaze flickered to Hu Chongting, her lips suddenly trembled. Tears welled up instantly as she whimpered, "Sorry, Auntie Sue, I thought this was my birthday present from you." A 4 or 5-year-old child putting on such an act. Chi Mushiwa's parenting skills are truly remarkable. Hu Chongting couldn't bear to see his goddaughter so upset. What's wrong? Lin Lin's tears fell as she tugged at Hu Chongting's sleeve with a pitiful expression. Godfather, I made Aunt Sue angry again. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Hu Chongting turned to me with a slightly reproachful look. Honestly, that little drama queen nearly made me laugh out loud. I nodded. Yes, it's all my fault. I'm sorry. I grabbed the box and headed straight out. Hu Chongting froze momentarily, guilt washing over his face. He'd practically raised Lin Lin himself. Her little habits weren't lost on him. Ji Wei, wait up, let me walk you out, Godfather. Lin Lin would never let him leave so easily. By the time he'd calmed her down, I was already gone. Hu Chongting rushed out, but there was no trace of me left. Ji Wei, do you want me to come back? That very day, his call came through the moment I got home. Holding the receiver, I couldn't help but laugh, as if this was ever my decision to make. Never mind, the line went dead before I could respond. I shook my head, baffled by his sudden mood swing. Several days passed without a single sighting of him. This kind of solitude was all too familiar from my past life. I never pried into his whereabouts. I dug out the study materials my teacher had given me and started relearning. My first job was assisting in my teacher's lab, where he taught me many things and encouraged me to attend university to become his graduate student. Sadly, I let him down. Picking it up again, I quickly became engrossed. After I'd crossed off several days on the calendar, Hu Chongting returned. He came back with Lin Lin. Ji Wei, I'm back. He stood at the kitchen doorway and spoke to me. There was an unusual glimmer in his eyes, as if still hoping for something. Pretending not to notice, I glanced at Lin Lin, who had kicked off her shoes and curled up on my couch, then said, I'll whip up 2 more dishes. Hu Chongting's gentle expression faded as a palpable tension began to permeate the air. 6. I still turned a blind eye. I'm starving. I want boiled fish. Lin Lin shouted toward the kitchen. There's no fish at home. Should I go buy some fish then? Hu Chongting spoke, but didn't leave right away. I didn't look at him either. He let out a frustrated sigh, put on his coat and went out again. Lin Lin was watching TV in the living room. I was cooking in the kitchen. When Lin Lin's usual noisy chatter went silent for too long, a sinking feeling hit me. I rushed out only to find, the scene in the living room nearly gave me a stroke. Lin Lin had rummaged through the bedroom and found Mom's keepsakes. There she stood on the sofa, systematically shredding every handmade toy Mom had made for me with scissors. Spotting me, she met my gaze with defiance, then casually let the mutilated remnants of Mom's treasures tumble into the trash. I was shaking with rage, yanked her off the couch. Pick it up. I've never been this furious before. Lin Lin flinched in fear, then started throwing a tantrum. You wicked woman, yelled at me again. Just wait till I tell my godfather to kick you out. You're just a maid. How dare you shout at me? Wah, mommy, godfather, this mean lady is bullying me. Kamukshu arrived as if on cue, bursting through the door. She shielded Lin Lin protectively. Why pick on a child? If you hadn't left your things lying around, she wouldn't have touched them. Now you're blaming us. No wonder you're a motherless bastard. Absolutely no manners. Blind rage shot through my veins. Insult me all you want, but lay a finger on my mother and you're dead. My hand flew up. What the hell are you doing? A large hand clamped around my wrist just in time. it was Hu Changting. Blinding rage washed over my face. At that very moment, Kamuksha seized the chance to slap me hard across the face. The handprint was clearly visible. Hu Changting froze in shock. I looked at him and laughed. Hu Changting, is this what you wanted? I never expected him to protect me like he did Chi Mushue. But I never imagined he'd side with that mother-daughter pair to bully me either. The last shred of illusion vanished into thin air. Hu Changting noticed the cold detachment between my brows and my pallid complexion. Jiwei, Kamuksha gloated inwardly as she hugged Linlin and snapped, Su Jiwei, how could you be so cruel? Linlin's just a child, they're just some stupid toys. I'll pay you back if I have to. Was it really necessary to lay hands on a kid? Those were my mother's keepsakes. I enunciated each word deliberately. The room fell deathly silent. Hu Changting's face turned even paler. Realizing her blunder, Linlin stopped her fake wailing and began glancing around nervously. Chi Mushue flushed with anger, her delicate face turning pink. If it's so important, you shouldn't have left it lying around. I kept it in my bedroom with the door locked, and she still managed to find it. Where else am I supposed to hide things? You know exactly how your daughter behaves. Don't pretend otherwise. Chi Mushue was still putting on her prestigious overseas graduate act to argue with me, while Hu Changting just looked utterly exhausted. You too, just go home for now, Changting. Kamuksha could hardly believe her ears. Was Hu Changting actually telling her to leave for the first time? Linlin tugged pitifully at Hu Changting's sleeve. Godfather, I didn't mean to. Woo-woo, go home, Hu Changting said wearily, with no other choice. Chi Mushue picked up Linlin, shot me a furious glare, and left reluctantly. When only the two of us remained in the room, Hu Changting crouched down to help me gather the shredded toy pieces. Linlin's just a child, why take it so seriously? 7, you're right, I shouldn't have made a big deal out of it, like in a past life, letting things slide and muddling through existence. I tried my best to keep my composure. You saw it yourself, it's not that I can't tolerate them, but they can't tolerate me. Hu Changting frowned, visibly irritated by my relentless persistence. A mocking smile tugged at my lips. I know you still can't let her go, but I won't wait for you anymore. Hu Changting, let's get divorced. The moment I said it, an incredible weight lifted off my shoulders. No anger, no resentment, just pure relief and contentment. Hu Changting abruptly stood up, his large hands fidgeting nervously with nowhere to rest. Jiwei, are you feeling unwell from getting caught in the rain the other day? Should I fetch you some medicine? He asked. I straightened my expression, turning more solemn. I'm not sick. Hu Changting, let's get a divorce. A chill swept over us again. Hu Changting was furious. You must be hungry. I'll cook something. He marched straight into the kitchen, cutting off any chance for me to speak. I shook my head and shut myself in the room. Only after hearing the door close did Hu Changting dare to exhale the breath he'd been holding, his tense muscles relaxing slightly. The power went out, so I lit the kerosene lamp. All right, began painstakingly piecing together the toy Linlin had cut up. After what felt like ages, a knock came at the door. Jiwei, dinner's ready. I set down my needlework and stepped out. Hu Changting rarely cooked, and this meal was far from appetizing. Yet he made my favorite braised pork. Seeing me pick up a piece of braised pork, Hu Changting quietly let out a sigh of relief. After the meal, I volunteered to wash the dishes. Leaning against the kitchen doorway, Hu Changting watched my movements, the stiff curve of his lips softening noticeably. He went to freshen up right after. Today he's groomed himself meticulously, even shaved off the stubble carefully. With a faint soap scent lingering, I know exactly what he's up to. Just as he was about to step into my bedroom, I said, Hu Changting, I meant every word about the divorce. Hu Changting froze at the doorway again, but this time he acted as if he hadn't heard anything, saying, get some proper rest if you're tired, I won't disturb you. With that, he closed the door behind me. The wooden door shut between us. I knew he hadn't left. He was still standing right outside. Through the door, I could faintly hear his uneven breathing. I paid no heed and continued mending my mother's keepsakes. At dawn the next day, the first light barely touched the sky. When I opened the door, a mountainous chest blocked the entrance like a cliff. Hu Changting stood there with sunken eyes and ramrod posture, weathered yet unyielding like an ancient pine. He stared at me with the look of someone who'd made up his mind. Jiwei, I've decided, I'll have others take care of Dr. Chi and Linlin. From now on, let's just focus on us. He turned to leave, but his stiff legs from standing all night nearly made him stumble as he took the first step. Watching his retreating figure, I felt a momentary daze. This time, he actually let go of Kamukshu without hesitation. I admit, at this moment, my heart is in turmoil. For a fleeting second, I caught myself imagining, if he truly gave up both Kamukshu and Lin, staying with him might not be so unbearable after all. But that fantasy shattered almost instantly. On my way to the library that afternoon, I spotted 3 familiar figures in the park near the residential compound. Lin was playing on the children's slide with a group of kids. Hu Chongting and Qi Muxue stood guard on either side of the slide, carefully watching over her. Their loving interaction made them look just like a happy family of 3. The faint ripples in my heart completely subsided. I couldn't help but laugh at my own foolishness and naivety. That evening, Hu Chongting came back with a pound of pork belly. At dinner, he never mentioned the application, and I didn't bring it up either. It wasn't until the meal ended that he finally spoke up. Dr. Qi is heading north for a classified national project, likely never to return in this lifetime. I set down my chopsticks and listened. Hu Chongting looked at me intently. Ji Wei, I want to legally adopt Lin. I can't bear to see her become an orphan like you were. I almost laughed. The same man who vowed to abandon Kamukshu and Lin this morning was now pushing his luck. I nodded without a flicker of emotion. As you should. After all, her father did save your life. Gratitude and relief were written all over Hu Chongting's face. But don't worry, I won't let them disturb your life. Even if Dr. Qi leaves later, my mother will take care of Lin. You won't need to lift a finger. With everything already settled, what more could I say? But after that, Qi Muxue and Lin never showed up at my place again. I can finally focus on studying without any distractions. Honestly, I could tolerate those two if they'd stop flaunting their superiority in front of me. Whenever he's not on missions, Hu Chongting does all the laundry and cooking. How do you view calculus and nuclear physics? Are these still tested in college entrance exams? Suddenly, a voice came from above. He leaned slightly, his hands resting on the armrests of the chair, and I was completely enveloped by his presence. I subtly turned my head to avoid his breath brushing my cheek. Just a hobby, nothing serious, just browsing. I had no intention of telling him about my trip to the Gobi. I have a very important assessment coming up, Hu Chongting, so let's sleep in separate rooms. Just this morning, I found him decorating the room, even buying ribbons and red silk. In his previous life, he said he never got the chance to give me a proper wedding. He cherished the day we first got together and spent a long time meticulously decorating this room for it. Hearing this, Hu Chongting stiffened slightly before straightening up and saying, "All right." During those days, I could clearly sense his subdued mood, but that was none of my business. With the assessment approaching, I burned the midnight oil every day, absorbing knowledge like a sponge. My teachers used to say I had a natural talent for this, but that doesn't mean my amateur skills meet professional standards. But with the current talent shortage nationwide, I doubt they can find enough qualified professionals. This is my golden opportunity. I must seize it. The day of the assessment finally arrived. Early that morning, Hu Chongting prepared breakfast. I've got some personal matters to attend to today. He deliberately emphasized the words personal matters. I kept my head down, silently eating my porridge. Hu Chongting's breath hitched as he stood nearby, his towering frame looming like a mountain, radiating oppressive energy. Aren't you going to ask where I'm going or what I'll be doing? I finally set down my spoon and looked up with a smile. You're always so busy. Just focus on your own things. Didn't you always spend your free time with Kamukshu and Lin before? That time I had sudden gastritis. You said you were busy, only for me to find out you were just accompanying Lin to her dance class. This private time was never mine to begin with. Why even ask? Hu Chongting stared at me, long and hard. I could feel the congee in my bowl turning cold. The last thing I needed was stomach trouble from chilled food. Today's assessment was crucial. I met his gaze without flinching. Anything else? Hu Chongting finally sighed, his eyes betraying unmistakable exhaustion. Wait for me to cook dinner when I get back. This recruitment was open to all of Chicheng, but only a handful truly caught the higher-ups' attention. There were fewer than 20 people in nuclear physics. The assessment consisted of 2 parts, theory and practice. In the end, less than half passed both sections, yet I ranked first in both theory and practice. The teacher's frown deepened as he scrutinized my grades. I knew he wanted me to stay to preserve the Su family line, but with top marks, choosing otherwise would be a betrayal of our nation. Professor, this is my own choice. His eyes suddenly reddened as he turned away. Fine, have it your way. If you're really going, leave in 3 days, no extensions. 8. In the hallway, I ran into a doctor in a white coat complaining to a soldier, "What's the deal with your so-called teaching returnee with a master's in medicine? She failed basic pharmacology theory. And her practical skills are a complete mess. Weren't you singing her praises to the skies? Even assigned her a personal security detail. I know you value talent, but not every overseas returnee is the real deal." They passed by too quickly for me to catch everything. But I recognized that doctor. He's the leader of this desert expedition's medical team, a genuine returnee scholar with a Ph.D. in medicine, truly respected in his field. As I stepped out of the exam hall, I spotted a familiar car parked by the roadside with an equally familiar figure leaning against its hood. Hu Chongting noticed me immediately, straightening up from his relaxed posture. "What brings you here? I'll be leaving in a couple of days anyway, no point keeping it secret any longer." I was about to speak when Qi Muxue appeared, and a flicker of panic crossed Hu Chongting's face. "Ji Wei." Hu Chongting took 2 steps forward. Reaching out to stop me, Qi Muxue had already approached. "Chongting, sorry to keep you waiting, let's go." She walked straight to Hu Chongting as if she hadn't seen me, then gave an apologetic smile upon noticing my presence. "Ji Wei, you're here too." I nodded calmly, managing to offer them a composed smile. "I won't disturb you too if you have things to attend to." "Ji Wei." Hu Chongting took 2 steps forward, words caught in his throat. Just then the bus arrived, and I boarded. Hu Chongting stood rooted to the spot, autumn wind tugging at his coat as he watched the departing bus, his chest tight with unspoken sorrow. Through the rearview mirror, I saw him standing by the roadside, staring intently in this direction until the bus turned the corner. His gaze never wavered. "Hu Chongting, I've let you have your way in this lifetime, shouldn't you be happy?" I prepared an elaborate farewell dinner for Hu Chongting. When Hu Chongting rushed home and saw the spread of dishes, he heaved a long sigh of relief. "I thought you were angry," I smiled. Truth be told, I'd grown accustomed to him always putting Qi Muxue first even in our past life. I handed him the freshly cooked dish. Hu Chongting pressed his lips together slightly to suppress what would have been an uncharacteristically broad smile on his usually composed face. "Tomorrow I'll return to my hometown to visit my father's grave. I don't know if I'll ever have another chance to pay my respects in this lifetime." After some thought, I decided to make my final request to Hu Chongting. "Tomorrow, will you, Ji Wei, there's something I'd like to discuss with you." I chose to stay silent and let him speak first. "Dr. She will be leaving in 3 days. She's dedicating the rest of her life to serving our country. Who knows if she'll ever have the chance to return. Ji Wei, for these last 3 days, I'd like to take her out with Lin Lin to see the sights." Hu Chongting fixed me with an intense gaze, his eyes filled with remorse, yet underscored by unshakable determination. I forced a smile. "Of course," he continued, "Mom has taken Lin Lin back home. She's still adjusting to the new environment, and Dr. She can't stay at the Ho residence. I'll need to be there these 3 days." I nodded. "It's fine, whatever you decide." Hu Chongting studied my expression carefully, only relaxing when he was certain I wasn't actually upset. Sometimes I think being caught between me and Qi Muxue must be really difficult for him. Reaching across the table, Hu Chongting took my hand. "Thank you, Ji Wei, let's make the most of our life together." His eyes burned with rare sincerity at that moment. I nodded with a faint smile, discreetly withdrawing my hand. "Let's eat." Somewhat reassured, Hu Chongting took a few more bites of his meal. It wasn't until after dinner that he suddenly remembered. "What was it you wanted to say earlier?" I shook my head. "It was nothing important, not worth bothering you with. In our past life." "I'm sorry" was his most frequent phrase to me. This lifetime, I truly can't bear to hear those words again. The next morning, Hu Chongting rose unusually early. He cherished this open and honest final date, and was probably quite eager for it. A note was left on the table. "Ji Wei, wait for me to come back." The handwriting was strong and powerful, just like the man himself. I struck a match, and the note instantly turned to ash. It took me less than an hour to pack up all my belongings. Who knew erasing my presence from this home could be so effortless? In my past life, I actually believed he couldn't live without me, that the Hu family needed me, so I sacrificed everything to serve them my whole life. Looking back now, I can't help but laugh at my own foolishness, carrying my mother's belongings. I took 3 different rides and then walked over 10 miles through the mountains to finally reach my father's grave. I kept only one of my mother's belongings with me. All the others I buried beside my father. Separated for so many years, the couple could finally be together again. I wonder if they were happy. taking out their only photo together. I count out 3 times. Mom, Dad, your little girl has grown up. Now I can serve our country too. Aren't you proud of me? I think they would have been so proud. If they were still here, they'd probably pat my head like all parents do, their faces glowing with pride, telling the whole world their daughter has become someone worthwhile. On the final day, I returned to Chiching and handed the divorce papers to Mr. and Mrs. Hua. Mr. Hua was startled. Ji Wei, is this because of Lin Lin and Dr. Chi? I shook my head with a smile. Dad, I'm joining a classified national project with my mentor. Until its completion, death would be the only way out. The battle-hardened old general's face darkened instantly. Ji Wei, my smile remained serene and transparent. You only have Hua Chongting as your son. I won't be the one to ruin his entire life. It didn't take much convincing, though Mr. Hua had always treated me kindly. What parent wouldn't want their child's happiness? My voluntary withdrawal gave them an irrefutable excuse. Even Mrs. Hua softened at my gesture. With glistening eyes, she grasped my hands and whispered, Ji Wei, the Hua family has wronged you. Across 2 lifetimes, this was perhaps the most sincere thing she'd ever said to me. As Chi Mushiwe was leaving the Hua residence, Hua Chongting happened to return from the amusement park carrying Lin Lin. There's a slight chill in the air today. Chi Mushiwe wore a trench coat over her dress. The 3 of them entered through the gate together, painting a picture of perfect harmony. When Lin Lin saw me, she deliberately said, Godfather, can I call you Dad from now on? I suppose the adoption paperwork must be finalized by now. Hua Chongting finally got his wish. Lin Lin officially became his daughter. Good for them. Hua Chongting looked slightly uncomfortable, though he kept his composure. He looked at me with rare tenderness. What brings you here? Stay for dinner. Noticing Lin Lin's hostile glare, I smiled and said, No, I won't intrude. Polite yet distant, I gave a slight nod and walked straight out. A sudden panic seized Hua Chongting's heart. He let go of Lin Lin and chased after me. Ji Wei, I turned around. Can I help you? Hua Chongting said earnestly. Wait for me to come back. Catching the hostile glare from the mother-daughter pair following behind, I smiled and waved at him. Goodbye, Hua Chongting. Never to meet again in this lifetime. That evening, I boarded a private vehicle with my professor and headed to the Gobi Desert under military escort. That night, Hua Chongting had a dream. In his dream, that petite woman always had hot water and meals ready whenever he returned home. She seemed to possess an uncanny ability, always anticipating his arrival time and instinctively knowing his deepest needs. He also dreamt of every time he narrowly escaped death, returning home in glory, always finding a light waiting to guide his way. Whenever he faced a predicament, the thought of that table laden with food, that humble lamp, and the person always waiting for him in its glow, would fill him with boundless strength, helping him overcome danger time and again. Every time he came home, what he looked forward to most was opening the door to see that gentle woman, her face serene and peaceful, softly saying to him, You're home. 9. It was as if that simple phrase, just seeing her, made every sacrifice and hardship he endured outside feel completely worthwhile. It was precisely to protect her, and others like her, that he willingly walked into danger, yet he also knew she was the one person he'd wronged most in this life. He longed to retire early, shed all responsibilities, and return to make things right with her. Little did he know what awaited him. Hua Chongting, let's get divorced. Trapped in the Hua household for over 20 years. Wrinkles had formed at the corners of her eyes, and strands of white now streaked her temples. She seemed to have finally had enough. She wanted the divorce, refusing to even give him a chance to make amends. His breath hitched suddenly, a crushing weight pressing against his chest. Hua Chongting woke up gasping for air. He sat on the bed for a long while, forehead resting in his palm. How could he have such a dream? Her previous mention of divorce must have left him psychologically scarred. Though he feared nothing in this world, the word divorce from her lips genuinely terrified him, so terrified he could barely breathe. Thankfully, it's almost over. Tomorrow marks the day Kamuksha leaves for good. Once he saw Chi Mushiwe off, he could return to his little woman. This time, he'd make it up to her properly, so she wouldn't grow tired of him too quickly. Just then, the hospital called. Battalion Commander Hua, come to the hospital immediately. Dr. Chi is injured. Why now of all times? Hua Chongting froze momentarily, then without hesitation headed straight to the hospital. In the hospital, another doctor was applying a cast and splint to Chi Mushiwe's hand. Chi Mushiwe had fractured her hand, her right hand, the one that held the scalpel. Chongting, what should I do? my hand is useless now, how can I serve the country like this, and I just passed the assessment." Before she could finish, tears began to fall. Hu Chongting felt a flicker of irritation. But it quickly gave way to acceptance. Maybe it's for the best that I can't go. From now on, I won't have to look after Lin Lin anymore, nor let her suffer any more grievances. Kamuksha secretly rejoiced. Hu Chongting truly didn't want her to leave after all. Had she not gone to the military base that last time and overheard him assigning her and Lin Lin's protection duties to other colleagues, she wouldn't have needed to participate in this ridiculous selection in the first place. If you don't participate, you won't be humiliated. To this day, she still remembers that so-called PhD publicly calling her uneducated. She's a proper returnee scholar, even if her degree was fake. She genuinely studied medicine at Cambridge. Chi Mushiwa showed visible frustration at being unable to serve her country. All her colleagues, even the hospital administrators, came to comfort her. The military also sent a special envoy to express their condolences. Some junior nurses were green with envy. Dr. She is amazing, a true returnee medical master's graduate, practically a national treasure. Chi Mushiwa smiled modestly, her face reflecting only the noble regret of not being able to serve her country. Mrs. Hu personally came to pick Chi Mushiwa up to the Hu residence. Hu Chongting frowned. "Mother, isn't this rather inappropriate?" The joy that had just lit up Chi Mushiwa's face instantly faded. Mrs. Hu shot her son a glare. "What's inappropriate about it? Mushiwa injured her hand and can't handle chores. If we don't take care of her, who will? Besides, this is your debt to Lin Hai. The entire Hu family owes him. I do feel like I'm imposing on you all." Chi Mushiwa gazed at Hu Chongting with wounded, pleading eyes. Hu Chongting bit back whatever he meant to say. Chi Mushiwa moved into the Hu residence with unapologetic boldness. At dinner that evening, Lin Lin cheered, "Yay! Mommy gets to stay. Now I can live with both Mommy and Daddy Hu forever." Hu Chongting acted deaf to the celebration. An inexplicable restlessness gnawed at him, like he'd lost something precious, yet couldn't pinpoint what. Chi Mushiwa began reminiscing about Cambridge, recounting their golden days there. Hu Chongting's mind was elsewhere this time. Old Mr. Hu couldn't take it anymore either. He put down his chopsticks and went straight upstairs. Chi Mushiwa's face froze. "Is it because of me?" She couldn't tell if it was her imagination, but Mr. Hu seemed particularly distant with her today. "None of your business, leave him be." Mrs. Hu became even more attentive than usual. Hu Chongting had planned to return home today, but Lin Lin grabbed his hand and burst into tears. Standing in the stairwell, Mr. Hu took in everyone's expressions, especially Chi Mushiwa's. Hu Chongting turned and saw his father, hesitating as he asked, "Dad, should I stay here tonight?" His father replied coldly, "You're grown up now. Decide for yourself." His father retreated to his study. Just like that, 3 days passed. Hu Chongting repeatedly wanted to call home, but each time he picked up the receiver, he couldn't figure out how to explain things to that young woman. Every time Lin Lin called him daddy, he grew increasingly uneasy. When Lin Lin called him daddy again, this time dropping the Hu entirely, Hu Chongting finally lost his composure. "Dr. Chi, since you're staying, we should transfer Lin Lin's household registration back under your name." Chi Mushiwa, who was serving fruit to Hu Chongting, instantly turned ashen-faced. The fruit platter clattered to the ground, scattering its contents everywhere. Lin Lin burst into tears. "Daddy, don't you want me anymore?" Madame Hu was startled by the commotion. "Hu Chongting, what the hell's gotten into you this early in the morning?" There was Lin Lin screaming and sobbing, Chi Mushiwa looking utterly wronged and heartbroken, and Mother Hu glaring at him with fire in her eyes. Exhaustion washed over Hu Chongting. "I'm heading back first." Returning home finally brought some peace to his mind. The note he left for Su Jiwei on the table was gone. She must have seen it. She'd surely wait obediently for his return. She's probably still at work now. A sense of relief sent him straight to sleep. He had that dream again. In the dream, he and Su Jiwei were finally together, and they even had a child, a beautiful daughter who looked just like Su Jiwei, but he never had time for them. Every time they needed him most, Lin Lin and Chi Mushiwa would have emergencies. At first, their daughter resented him, but gradually that resentment transformed into longing, and then into admiration and affection for Chi Mushiwa and Lin Lin, until one day, even the child Su Jiwei had raised with her own hands turned to Chi Mushiwa and said, "Auntie Chi, I wish you were my mother." Hu Chongting felt the air leave his lungs. It finally dawned on him why she wanted a divorce. She sacrificed everything for this family, only to be betrayed by those closest to her. On their divorce day, the only words he could muster were "I'm sorry." She smiled and said it didn't matter. Silver strands had begun to show at her temples, a sight that pained him to behold. In remorse, he gave her nearly all the money he possessed. He believed she would finally enjoy her golden years in true happiness. 3 months later, tragedy struck. The dilapidated old house collapsed in the storm, burying her beneath the rubble. It wasn't until 3 months later, when villagers cleared the debris, that they discovered a body trapped underneath. Slap. No one will ever know the agony she endured in those final moments, nor how long she suffered beneath the wreckage. For 3 whole months, not even her own daughter remembered she had a mother. At that moment, his heart clenched so tightly he could barely breathe, until the village chief handed him a fountain pen. This was Comrade Sue's only keepsake. She held on to it so tightly, never letting go until her last breath. It must have meant everything to her. Hu Changting jolted awake, gasping for breath. The dream felt so real, as if it had actually happened. Su Jiwei still hadn't returned. Probably still at the supply and marketing cooperative. That's wonderful. He wanted to see her quickly, otherwise he couldn't suppress the fear in his heart, but his hands trembled uncontrollably as he dressed. Not just his hands, his legs turned to jelly with fright, and he took a nasty fall at the doorway. He drove straight to the supply and marketing cooperative. Along the way, he traced her daily commute for the first time. It's a 2-kilometer walk from the residential compound. Then 2 bus transfers, with long intervals between buses. You'd need to allow extra time to avoid being late. The whole trip takes about 2.5 hours. Hu Changting suddenly realized, had she been wasting 5 hours every day just commuting, why had she never mentioned this to him? He could have easily driven her to and from work. Chimu Shui's commute was less than an hour. Yet he insisted on personally driving her to and from work every day. A pang of guilt washed over Hu Changting. But it was quickly drowned by overwhelming dread that she might recognize his unfair treatment, dread that she'd wake up and leave him for good. When he arrived at the supply and marketing cooperative, the staff were already preparing to close. A staff member is recording income and expenses with a fountain pen. This pen looks strangely familiar, that very fountain pen Su Jiwei clutched until her dying breath in my dream. Where did you get this fountain pen? Hu Changting tried to rein in his temper, but the soldier's fiery demeanor still made the staff member flinch. The staffer was stunned. Wasn't this the handsome officer she'd been gossiping about with Su Jiwei? Jiwei gave this to me. Impossible, she'd never give this away. At that moment, Hu Changting lost control and snatched the pen right out of the person's hand. Ink splattered onto the staff member, who flew into a rage. Excuse me, comrade, what do you think you're doing? Hearing her angry shout, another staff member emerged from the back. The weather's turned chilly lately, and she's wearing a silk scarf around her neck. Hu Changting felt that familiar pang in his chest again. Where did you get this scarf? He remembered, the day before Su Jiwei's birthday, he'd made a special trip to the department store to buy her that red dress. On the way, Kamuksha needed to see him, so he carried the dress and went over immediately. He'd only been gone a few minutes when Kamuksha had already slipped into the dress. Her cheeks faintly flushed as she thanked him. Changting, I really love this dress, thank you. He wanted to say something, but the words caught in his throat. Later, I went back to the mall and picked out a one-of-a-kind silk scarf, yet now, that very scarf was draped around someone else's neck. Su Jiwei, what the hell are you doing? Hu Changting snapped, even snatching the scarf away. The 2 women's eyes were red with anger. How dare you, an officer, try to snatch my scarf? Jiwei gave this to me. Finally, someone caught on. What's your relationship with Jiwei? Su Jiwei had worked here for over half a year. He's been here dozens of times, yet no one knew what he was to her. How absurd is that? I'm her husband. Call Su Jiwei out here. Hu Changting was absolutely furious. How could she just casually give away the gift he'd so carefully chosen for her? Blind rage nearly consumed his rationality. The 2 women exchanged bewildered glances. Jiwei resigned ages ago. Aren't you her husband? How could you not know that? Oh, now I remember, you were probably busy accompanying that Dr. Gee, who'd have time to care about our Jiwei's affairs? No wonder Jiwei pretended not to know you at the supply cooperative. What wife would want a husband who's entangled with another woman? Hu Changting froze. Was that really why? 10. His first visit to the supply cooperative had been with Chimu Shue. Chimu Shue said things here were cheaper than at the department store. So they came. It was Su Jiwei's shift that day. When she saw them, she went inside. He always thought she didn't acknowledge him because she felt inferior, so. Was this the reason all along? Hu Chongting left the supply and marketing cooperative with the fountain pen and silk scarf. Suddenly, he found himself hesitating to return. He couldn't bring himself to face that delicate woman, nor confront his past neglect of her. The memory of her occasional mocking smirk cut through him like a knife. What terrified him more was her bringing up divorce again. If she did, he feared he wouldn't even have the right to refuse, wandering aimlessly through the streets. He only crossed that threshold when night fell. "Jiwei, I'm home." Pushing open the door, he was met with darkness and a chilling emptiness. No welcoming light remained on for him, no comforting aroma of home-cooked meals, nor the sight of the woman he longed to see. "Jiwei." No one answered. An inexplicable chill enveloped him completely. Only then did Hu Chongting realize what was missing in this house. The mountain of books she'd piled on the desk was gone. Her clothes were gone from the wardrobe. The bed was neatly made with folded sheets, as if no one had ever slept there. Not a single trace of her remained in the entire room. It was as though she had never existed here at all. A crushing wave of terror washed over him. "Dad." Hu Chongting stormed back to the Hu residence. Though Lin Lin and Qi Mushiwei rushed to greet him immediately, he walked right past them and headed upstairs. "Dad." Mr. Hu sat in his study, leisurely flipping through a newspaper. When his son barged in without knocking, he didn't even glance up. "Dad, where's Jiwei? You must know, don't you?" Only after finishing an entire section did Mr. Hu set down the newspaper and finally look up. 5 days. It took you 5 whole days to remember her after she left." Old Mr. Hu nearly laughed at the absurdity of it all. "Had you shown any remorse, I might have tried mediating. Now I see it's pointless." He tossed a divorce agreement on the table. "Sign it." The moment Hu Chongting recognized the document, his mind went completely blank. "After observing how you've treated that mother and daughter these past days, I finally understand how much that child has suffered all these years. Our Hu family has wronged her, but you're the one who truly failed her. Just sign it and get her out of your life for good." Hu Chongting had no recollection of how he'd left the study. He stood frozen at the stair landing, his mind completely blank. "Mommy. Did I really chase that stupid woman away? Yay, now you can be with Daddy Hu forever." Everything Daddy Hu gave her, I either stole or destroyed. When she got angry, I'd just cry and Daddy Hu always took my side. I deliberately cut up that stupid woman's mother's heirlooms too. Serves her right for not letting me touch them. Just a pile of trash she treasured like gold. Whatever she cherished, I ruined. She shouldn't have clung to Daddy Hu like that. How wicked, Mommy. Does this mean you'll be with Daddy Hu now? Then I can finally be the Hu family's little princess, right? I was so scared that woman might have a baby to steal my spotlight. Perfect timing. TSK. Such venomous, shameless words spoken in a child's innocent voice. Hu Chongting descended the stairs in disbelief, spotting Lin Lin and Qi Mushiwei who was showering her with praise. Hearing footsteps on the staircase, the mother-daughter pair instantly fell silent, recognizing him. Lin Lin immediately dashed back. She clung to his leg crying "Daddy," and demanded to be picked up. How familiar this scene feels. As he looked at her, all he could think of was that other girl. How deeply must her heart have been broken for her to file for divorce so resolutely, and all of this was caused by his overprotection and indulgence toward the mother and daughter. "Chongting, what's wrong? Lin Lin wants you to hold her." Qi Mushiwei approached with an affectionate scolding. As if he truly were Lin Lin's father. As if fatherly duties were naturally his to fulfill. Today, Mother Hu informed her that Su Jiwei had already filed for divorce. That woman was gone, never to return. This doesn't really betray her persistent efforts to provoke her, but I have to say, that woman is truly difficult to deal with. It took her this long to finally back off. She and Hu Chongting were never a good match, and she completely lacked self-awareness. From now on, I'll be the daughter-in-law of the Hu family. Even if I don't work and lose the prestige of being an overseas-trained doctor, I'll still live a very comfortable life. With that thought, Qi Mushiwei felt even more at ease, her face becoming even more charming. Hu Chongting looked at Qi Mushiwei, then lowered his gaze to Lin Lin. "You've wanted to force her out for a long time, haven't you? Are you satisfied now?" Qi Mushiwei's face went pale. Did he just hear that? She was panicking? But she couldn't back down. With just one look, Lin Lin immediately burst into tears. "Daddy, don't you want Lin Lin anymore?" "Boo-hoo-hoo." Hu Chongting suddenly smiled. A bitter taste filled his mouth. This was Lin Hai's only flesh and blood. How could he bear to see her cry? "I'm sorry, I indulged you, making you believe you could walk all over her and do whatever you pleased. Chi Mushiwe, Lin Lin, Lin Lin. You deliberately cut up Aunt Sue's late mother's keepsake. You still owe her an apology, Dr. Chi, you called Jiwei fatherless trash and a bastard. Shouldn't you apologize to her too? Not to mention that slap. He could never forget the moment when he held Su Jiwei's wrist to stop her, only to let Chi Mushiwe seize the chance and deliver a stinging slap across her face. In her eyes at that moment, there was no pain, no hatred, no anger, only mockery, ice-cold mockery. Hu Chongting covered his face, not daring to dwell on it any longer. How utterly heartbroken and disappointed she was with him back then. The divorce was the right choice. She simply didn't deserve him. Lin Lin couldn't shed another tear. Kamuksha's lips parted, but no words came out. Mrs. Hua, who had been secretly observing the couple's blossoming relationship from behind, became displeased and stormed out. Hu Chongting, is that how you talk to people? What is Su Jiwei compared to Mu Shui, who's a master's graduate from overseas? Hu Chongting gazed steadily at his mother, a bitter smile playing on his lips. He felt he understood Su Jiwei's heartache even more now. Mom, Jiwei missed her college entrance exams to take care of you, yet you've always looked down on her job, always saying she's useless. Furious at being defied by her own son for the first time, Mrs. Hua snapped. So what if she takes the college entrance exam? Could she possibly outshine Mu Shue? Hu Chongting suddenly recalled that dream, where his bedridden mother was cared for by Xu Jiwei's tireless devotion over a decade, only for her dying words to declare Xu unworthy of him and demand she let go. A chilling realization struck Hu Chongting. Perhaps it hadn't been a dream at all, but a memory. The thought of Xu Jiwei's death sent such a wave of dizziness through him that he nearly collapsed. Chongting, both Mrs. Hua and Chi Mushiwe rushed to support him by his sides. He shook them off and strode resolutely out of the Hua family estate. Just then, a military vehicle pulled up at the gate. 2 soldiers stepped out, gave him a curt nod, and marched straight into the house. Is this Chi Mushiwe? We're here to investigate your academic fraud allegations. You'll need to come with us. Chi Mushiwe panicked. It's not true. You're framing me. Chongting, help me. Lin Hai died in your place. You promised him you'd take care of me. Hu Chongting turned and saw his father standing at the stairwell. In that instant, everything became clear to him. 11. My days in the Gobi Desert were truly fulfilling. My teachers always said I had a natural gift for this, but I gave it up for my family's sake. When I returned to it, I caught up with my mentor's level in no time. The Gobi Desert is harsh, with strong winds and sandstorms, yet, for the future of our nation. Countless individuals pressed on, one after another, sacrificing their families, and even their lives. My teacher always said that the Eastern Dragon would one day reawaken and no longer suffer humiliation from others. One day, my teacher called me aside and told me that Hu Chongting was looking for me. I've searched every corner with unwavering devotion. I understood what remained unspoken by my mentor. He wished for my happiness, yet equally hoped I'd stay. Noticing the new silver strands in his hair, I smiled and replied, Master, I only wish to follow your and my mother's path, to dedicate my remaining years to our nation. The teacher remained silent, yet, I still managed to see Hu Chongting. 3 years later, he had become an ordinary sergeant assigned to guard the base. I spotted him from afar but didn't approach, just like when I'd seen him at the supply cooperative years before. He spotted me instantly, our eyes met. And it felt like an eternity had passed. Senior sister, do you know him? I ignored the longing and anticipation in Hu Chongting's eyes. Given his current status, he has no right to approach me. The teacher only told me the rest after seeing my reaction. Chi Mushiwe was investigated. Not only was her special talent status revoked, but she also faced imprisonment. The Hua family pulled strings, with Hu Chongting sacrificing his own career to keep her out of prison. Though Chi Mushiwe avoided jail, she was exiled to the great northern wilderness, with Lin Lin accompanying her. Hu Chongting's desire to repay kindness is only natural. I nodded. The teacher finally relaxed after seeing I truly wasn't upset. Research work keeps me productively busy. A decade flashed by. My mentor, worn down by years of toil, entrusted everything to me. After paying my final respects, I took over all his responsibilities. The higher-ups assigned me a security detail. They granted me the authority to personally select the security team leader. This time, Hu Chongting finally stood before me with undisputed legitimacy. He ranked first in the comprehensive assessment. I could even see the eagerness and longing in his eyes. But that day, I chose the runner-up. I never remarried, dedicating my entire life to serving the nation. Years of overexertion gradually took its toll on my health. After collapsing one day, I finally reached the end of my strength. But it's alright, my mission is nearly complete, just one last little bit. Summoning my last strength, I asked my student to bring paper and pen to continue calculating the data. Let me in, Jiwei, I beg you, just one last look at you, that's all I ask. Who's making that racket outside? My hearing seems to fade as all my focus converges on the pen in my hand. Almost there, just a little more. The nib keeps moving, slow yet steady, gradually materializing the final solution in my mind. Colonel Hua. Calm down, just one more step, Dr. Sue is about to complete her calculations. Her final moments are incredibly precious. Every second of her time is crucial for the nation's future. The outside world finally quieted down, and my mind cleared a bit. I used my last ounce of strength to ponder what was still missing, what else needed to be done. I must pass on all my knowledge and wisdom to future generations. With the final formula written, I closed my eyes in contentment. My life peacefully fading away. This lifetime held no love, no family, yet in the end, I found it all worthwhile. In my final moments, visions came, space stations soaring, intercontinental missiles launching, drone swarms blanketing the battlefield. At last, our victories need no longer be built with flesh and blood. Professor, Senior, Dr. Sue, the voices faded into the distance, my soul began to float away. I saw students kneeling on the ground, soldiers bowing in salute came into view. And there stood Hua Changting, still waiting outside the door. He stood there like an ice sculpture. The autumn breeze brushed his cheek, sensing something. He looked up at me. Jiwei, I died on the same day as in my past life, on the day of my funeral. My colleagues, my students, and a solemn procession of soldiers escorted my spirit home to rest. I was laid to rest beside my father and mother. The world came to know at last ours was a house of unwavering loyalty. Worthy of our family and country. Fresh flowers blanketed the cemetery grounds. This life was ultimately worth living. As the joss paper burned to ashes, people departed one after another, leaving only Hua Changting standing steadfast in the autumn wind. Su Jiwei, why did you abandon me in this lifetime? Clutching that fountain pen in his hand, his desolate voice trembled with unshed tears. All right, that night, his hair turned white before dawn. Story 2, in my senior year of high school. I failed the art college entrance exam. Then my parents died unexpectedly one after another. I was barely getting by in a daze when I discovered someone had stolen and replaced my art exam papers. The person who took my spot was my best friend, the school belle Sun Ting. Everyone says my best friend. The school belle Sun Ting is like the moon in the sky, won a gold medal in an international competition with a painting, and also captured the heart of the Qin family heir, about to marry into a wealthy family next month. But unfortunately, she died in a fire tonight, along with her entire family. 2. I am Qiu Li, Qiu as in autumn, Li as in dawn. They all laugh at me, calling me the green leaf or sidekick by Sun Ting's side. Everyone says I'm just dirt beneath their feet. Failed the art school entrance exam, lost both parents, surviving on a single bun for a day. Sun Ting is about to become a wealthy lady, while I'm still toiling in the studio, covered in dust, enduring others' disdain, and struggling to make ends meet. I was the one who set fire to Sun Ting's house tonight. When the sirens sounded, I felt no regret, because all of this today was something I had planned for a long time. That painting was done by me. Exchanging my art exam results to get into my dream university, stealing my paintings to enter competitions and win awards. She stole my life and now gets to live the life I wanted. But Sun Ting, how could anything in this world be so perfect? 3. When Sun Ting called me, I was staring dumbfounded at the news on Weibo. Recently, renowned beauty painter Ping Ting, originally named Sun Ting, won the gold medal at the 27th International Vinci Painting Competition in 2022 with her artwork Moon in the Sky. She is a rising star in China's art world, praised by Master Shi as a modern painter with remarkable spiritual talent. On screen, Sun Ting looked stunning with her makeup, dressed in a high-end lake blue outfit, smiling radiantly during the host's interview. Miss Sun, your painting is titled Moon in the Sky. Many of your fans backstage told us that you are the true moon in the sky, serene, noble, and untainted by worldly dust. The barrage was flooded with fan comments like graceful and elegant, the moon in the sky, fairy sister, marry me, beautiful person, beautiful art. and bringing glory to the nation. Sun Ting smiled sheepishly and said, "It's all the love from my fans," but my gaze was firmly fixed on the painting behind them, that moon in the sky. My heart was overflowing with shock and disbelief. Impossible. This can't be. How could this? The hostess glanced at Sun Ting's dress. "All right. I heard the CEO of Yuanhong Group propose to you. This gown is truly stunning." Yuanhong Group, founded by the Qin family from Beijing's top elite circle. Its subsidiaries operate in highly profitable sectors including entertainment media and applied information technology. Qin Ming, the young master of the Qin family who just returned from studying abroad, has newly taken office as the group president. I know all these things, even have them memorized by heart, because Sun Ting has bragged about it to me more than once. I spent the entire news segment in a daze, until Sun Ting's call came through. "Qiuli, what are you doing?" Sun Ting's tone was somewhat strange, cautious, and careful. I raised my head, staring blankly at the children drawing in the room. "I'm teaching a class." "Have you seen today's trending topics?" "What trending topic?" "You know I don't watch the news. I can't even afford a smartphone." I slowly handed the phone back to the child who was drawing. "Oh right, I forgot." The voice on the other end of the line sighed in relief. "By the way, Chili, I'm getting married next month in Santorini to the CEO of Yuanhong Group. Congratulations, future Mrs. Qin. Are you calling to ask me to be your bridesmaid?" "Though I can't afford the plane ticket." "Of course not." Sun Ting suddenly lost control and shouted. I was stunned, hearing the other side seem to realize the impropriety, then said gently, "I know you're busy too. You have to work part-time every day to earn money. After the wedding, our family will move there and not come back, so my dad wants to invite you to our house for dinner, just tomorrow evening. Are you free?" I slowly raised my head, dazed for a long time until Sun Ting urged me. I just came to my senses and said, "Sure, tomorrow night then, rain or shine." 4. Under the scorching sun, I rode a shared bike to the art studio, my back soaked with sweat, yet I didn't even feel the heat. I gaze at the easel covered with canvas before me. Beneath the canvas lies nothing but blankness. As expected, the nervous assistant standing beside me watches with unease. She is afraid, yet I laughed. It took me a long time to find my voice. I asked her, "Where are my paintings?" She kept her head down without speaking, then stammered that she didn't know. "How much did she pay you?" The assistant remained silent for a long time before suddenly speaking. "I'm sorry, I found it amusing." "You say sorry, yet you knew it would hurt me. Why did you do it anyway?" "My mom is hospitalized and needs a large sum of money for surgery." "I'm sorry, I really am, but I desperately need that money. Besides, there's no guarantee you'd win the competition anyway." She's latched onto the Qin family. It's all prearranged. This didn't move me. I didn't look at her. "It's not just this one piece, right? Or rather, is there any piece you didn't give to her?" She abruptly fell silent. "How many surgeries has your mom had? If you want money, just say it straight. No need to play the victim. Could you possibly be worse off than me?" "My mom's already dead." I felt my nose sting. Every time I think about my parents, I really want to cry, but I have to hold it in, at least in front of the thief. Not sure what nerve I hit, but she suddenly looked up with a vicious glare. "There's no surveillance, no evidence, you wouldn't even know where to file a report. Go ahead, try to sue me." With that, she grabbed her bag and left. Suddenly, I felt completely drained and collapsed onto the floor. I was thinking about how my parents died. 5. I failed the art college entrance exam during my senior year of high school. Seeing that I had no school to attend, my father became so distressed he couldn't sit still, running everywhere begging for help. Finally, in front of the principal's house, weakened by days of anxiety and not watching his step, he stumbled and was hit by a passing car, never to stand up again. My mother was overwhelmed with anxiety. Her heart disease relapsed, and she suddenly fell ill. I sold all the valuable items at home and borrowed money everywhere, but relatives turned us away. Only my high school classmates Lin Luoshan and Sun Ting lent us money. Unfortunately, it still wasn't enough, and my mother didn't survive that winter. From then on, I valued money more than anything else, reluctant to spend on anything, and worked desperately to save and accumulate money. But now, even though I've finally saved enough for my mother's treatment, she can never come back. I'm wondering, what's the point of me saving all this money? My parents are never coming back. 6. At 8 tonight, I arrived punctually and rang Sun Ting's doorbell. Sun Ting's father was our high school principal, living in a standalone villa on the suburban hillside. At the dinner table, As I looked at Sun Ting's face brimming with happiness, I suddenly found myself inexplicably bringing it up. Ting Ting, why didn't you marry Lin Luoshan? The dinner table fell into complete silence. Lin Luoshan, the heartthrob of our high school, was that aloof artist-type male god. Both Sun Ting and I adored him back in the day, Sun Jichuan first snorted disdainfully. A penniless painter is worthy of my daughter, how could he compare to the Qin family? Sun Ting, however, took a sip of wine and said, Chili, you're still hung up on Luoshan, you're quite the loyal one. I lowered my head with a bitter smile. Yes, wasn't it for him that I chose the art school path back then? Luoshan is just good-looking, the kind that young girls like. Had I known it was the Qin family from the capital, she hesitated. Had I known earlier, I would have let you have Luoshan back then. It's not too late even now. Listening to their family's fantasies about Sun Ting marrying into the Qin family, I stirred my spoon absent-mindedly. They were so engrossed in their conversation that they didn't even notice I hadn't taken a single bite. I put down my chopsticks, no longer pretending to eat. Sun Ting, is this the most hopeful and happiest moment of your life? Sun Ting was still immersed in visions of the future, of course. It was actually her mother who noticed something wrong first. She sniffed the air. What's that smell? Something's burning. Sun Ting frowned. I smell it too. Mom, did you leave the stove on? It's not that she left it on, I softly retorted. It's a fire. The flames spread inward. They tried to stand up but their muscles went weak, collapsing one by one. They could only watch as I stood up unaffected, fetched oil from the kitchen, and leisurely poured it on the curtains, tablecloth, and every flammable surface. Sun Ting trembled and asked me in extreme fury why I was doing this. Are you insane, Chioli? What are you doing? Insane, but Sun Ting, you stole my life. 10 years ago, your father had someone swap our art exam scores. My painting was replaced with yours. Sun Ting, how does it feel to steal someone's spot in college? Money sure is great, you can swap anyone's painting you want. You stole my painting to get into college 10 years ago. And all these years you've been stealing my paintings to enter competitions, win awards, and market yourself as the beautiful female artist, both parents alive, fame and fortune in hand, and next month you're marrying into wealth. You've really had it good all these years. Finally, I picked up the red wine and poured it over them slowly and deliberately. I sighed, but Sun Ting, I haven't been doing well, not at all these years. I've been muddling through, living a life worse than death. I kicked Sun Ting's father, Sun Jichuan, who was lying beside me. Uncle Sun, you understand me, right? But Sun Jichuan saw the world-destroying madness in my eyes. He was terrified, truly terrified. His hand trembled as he reached out, trying to grab my pant leg. He wept bitterly. He said, Shaoli, if you forgive Uncle Sun, she's my only daughter. She knew her paintings weren't good enough to pass the exam and cried for several nights. Uncle Sun couldn't bear to see his daughter so heartbroken, so he bribed the invigilator during the art exam. Shaoli, please understand a father's heart. After a long silence, I suddenly spoke up. What about my father then? My father begged and searched everywhere for help back then. That day when he came to your house, he happened to overhear you discussing with the admissions officer about swapping my art exam results. As he turned to expose you, you stopped him. You argued and struggled at the doorstep, and you pushed my father down the slope. You saw the car coming and deliberately pushed him, didn't you? Sun Jichuan, you are Sun Ting's father. But does that mean my father isn't my father too? Then I threw the prepared lighter upwards. Flames surged skyward, overwhelming everything in sight. Their shouts, screams, and pleas for mercy were nothing but noise to me. Indeed, the sorrows and joys of this world are never truly understood by others. They were filled with anger, fear, and dread, yet I only felt relief and joy, because I've waited for this day, far too long. 8. As the flames raged fiercely, I walked out and sat on the small slope where my father had once fallen, calculating the time. The 2 whistleblowing letters I sent should be processed soon. One letter exposes how Sun Ting replaced my art exam paper years ago to steal my college admission, implicating a whole chain of corruption behind it. The other letter was sent to the Art Association, reporting Sun Ting's plagiarism and theft of others' artworks for competitions. I know it's nearly impossible to reopen the case of my father's so-called car accident from years ago, so tomorrow, no, tonight, the contents of the voice recorder in my hand will be made public. Before coming here, I already contacted a friend at a news agency and handed over all the evidence and documents from these years to them. The goal is to drop a bombshell right after tonight's shocking premeditated arson and murder case that has shaken society. I never thought my first personal smartphone would be used in such a situation. I turned on the recording and calmly recounted everything in front of the camera. Finally, I hope to use X-rays to examine all the paintings under the name of the artist Ping Ting, also known as Sun Ting. Moon in Heaven is my work, and I had long written my suicide note beneath it. Thank you. I clicked send, dispatching multiple copies of the recording and video, fulfilling my final wish. With everything prepared, I called the police and turned myself in. When the fire truck's siren sounded, I drank the poison I had prepared in advance. Ever since I found that admissions officer 5 years ago, I had been planning today's feast of revenge. I want Sun Ting to fall from the highest point. I want her to be disgraced after death. I want her entire family to be scorned and spat upon by millions even in death. Tomorrow marks the beginning of autumn, and I, Chiu Li, this vicious villain, ultimately died before the autumn dawn, but I have no regrets. I will never regret it. 9. Later, the X-ray examination results came out. Beneath every painting signed by Sun Ting, identical words were written in crimson cinnabar ink. In 2012, Sun Ting swapped Chiu Li's art exam papers, and Sun Jichuan killed my father. Their daughter stole my original paintings. Every signed piece bears this message, only the painting titled Moon in Heaven was different. Beneath it lay Chiu Li's final words: since my parents passed away, there's been no place to return to. My life, Chiu Li, has been muddled and aimless, with no destination in sight, tossing and turning at midnight. I only regret 2 things. I regret becoming an art student. I regret befriending Sun Ting. 10. I never imagined I'd have the chance to open my eyes again. It wasn't the medical staff who brought me back. It was my father's spit hitting my face. You study art. What kind of art are you studying? Your teacher says your grades are quite good, so focus on your exams with peace of mind. Aiming for a 211 university is absolutely no problem. Let me tell you, you better stop running off to the art studio so much. I was stunned for a long moment, just dumbfounded, staring blankly as my dad scolded me while holding a spatula. Then my mom smacked the back of his head. Qiu Dezhuang, keep your mouth shut. You know this child has loved painting since childhood. Can't we just have a proper conversation? Ouch, honey, stop hitting me. It hurts, it hurts. I stared dumbfounded at the middle-aged couple bickering and seemingly flaunting their affection before me. My vision blurred with warmth as tears suddenly streamed down. I'm quitting art. 11. I never expected that I would actually return to my first year of high school 12 years ago. Both my parents are still alive. My life has returned to a time when there was still hope. After long and careful consideration, I swear I will never repeat the same mistakes in this lifetime. 12. I returned to the classroom, vowing to study hard, get into a good university, and find a decent job in this life. To live happily with my parents for the rest of my life. As for fame and fortune, I never really cared much about them in the first place. Fortunately, I returned before that little bitch Sun Ting found out about my painting talent. This time I promised my teachers and parents that I absolutely won't become an art student. No matter how hard STEM subjects get, I'll study them properly. Academic qualifications are truly important. I suffered too much from lacking them in my past life. I must pursue postgraduate studies and civil service exams. 13. That day, as I was furiously working through math papers from 5-3 and struggling with obscure problems, a cold youthful voice suddenly rang in my ears, a roguish and sloppy tone of voice. Hello everyone, my name is Qin Ming. I took a moment to look up and saw a handsome guy with thick eyebrows, big eyes, a high nose bridge, and earrings, exuding an air of unruliness all over. At first glance, he looked like the kind of troublemaker who'd give a homeroom teacher headaches for 3 years straight. I simply couldn't connect the person before me with the young CEO of Yuanhong Corporation from over a decade later. That man elegantly wrapped in a black tailcoat, exuding sophistication and sex appeal in his head-to-toe luxury designer wear. Oh, it's been too long. I'd completely forgotten. Back when Qin Ming transferred to our high school, the kid had all the airs of a spoiled young master. I found it amusing and quickly turned to glance at Sun Ting, who hadn't yet been assigned to the art class. Take a look. That's your future husband who'll lose his wife before even getting married. Sun Ting reacted indifferently, a flash of admiration in her eyes before she turned away to look out the window. Our classroom window faced the art class, and if I remember correctly, Lin Luoshan was sitting in that spot. Oh right, Back then the bad boy male lead trope wasn't popular yet, all the girls were into aloof campus heartthrob painters like Lin Luoshan. I turned my head and continued watching Qin Ming with schadenfreude, though I don't know what President Qin thought about me burning down his fiancée's family in the future, or whether he hated me enough to scatter my ashes to the wind, but right now, TSK. His future wife who died before they could marry still looks down on him now. Ha 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 ha. Qin Ming, you sit at the far right of the second row. Chili, make some space for your new deskmate. At that moment, my ha 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 got stuck in my throat with a click sound. Damn it, how could I forget? Before the class division, I had been deskmates with Qin Ming for a while. Qin Ming, that spoiled rich kid, picked up his school bag and slung it over his shoulder with the same disdainful look as years ago. Seeing me still staring dumbly at him, he seemed to imagine something in his head, then put on that smug and cocky expression of his. Are you Chili? Still dazed, I just gave a vague MHM in response. To my surprise, the brat actually grinned and delivered that so-called classic opening line again. Autumn pear. What kind of giant pear is that? Did your parents love drinking pear syrup so much they named you after it? Pears are supposed to be round and plump. Oh wait, you are kinda chubby, you do resemble a big pear. The whole class burst into laughter. This was exactly like last time. He made fun of my name the same way in my past life too, and he called me fat. I'm not fat at all, I just have a little extra meat on me. Can you blame me? It's all because Cho Dazhuang made the food too delicious. This little brat is so infuriating to look at in this lifetime too. In the previous life, Chioli was timid and didn't dare to speak up. In this life, Chioli has completely transformed and is striking back with full force. 14. Can you believe I could tolerate this? I slammed the table indignantly. I threw a punch right then and there, knocked him flat on the spot. Well done. My dad stood up and applauded for me. My mom slapped him across the face, while my dad was whimpering. She earnestly lectured me about not being violent with classmates and getting along well with them. She said violence wouldn't solve anything, and if it really came to blows, how could a petite girl like me stand a chance against the tall and sturdy Qin Ming? Making enemies wouldn't be good. The next day she dragged me to apologize to Qin Ming. 15. In the infirmary, Qin Ming was changing the dressing on his chin, grimacing in pain. The moment he saw me, his face darkened as he turned away, pretending not to notice me. I'm no longer that thin-skinned little girl from before. For 10 years, I've worn dirty clothes, endured scornful looks while picking up discarded bottles. My skin has long grown thick. Moreover, upon reflection, I realize I was indeed too impulsive. The main thing is, if I make an enemy of the future CEO Qin, I might really end up picking bottles for a living. I quickly stepped in front of him, stood at attention, and was just about to speak. Qin Ming snorted impatiently. What are you here for? Didn't hit me enough yesterday, so you came to give my left cheek another punch today. I pinched my arm hard, and tears instantly welled up from the pain. I'm sorry Woo-woo, I shouldn't have hit you Woo-woo, I was wrong Woo-woo. I cried with such genuine emotion and apologized with such sincere words. Qin Ming panicked instantly. Why are you crying? Followed by a clattering mess as things fell to the ground. And he hastily fetched tissues for me. Sniffling, I took them, wiping my tears while stammering apologies about how I was wrong. Qin Ming awkwardly muttered that he wouldn't bother arguing with a little girl, grumbling about how women are such a hassle. Tilting his head and seeing me still gazing at him with teary eyes, his expression shifted before he finally softened and apologized. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have teased you about your name yesterday. I spoke out of turn. My mom always says that about me too. Actually, I don't dislike pears. I quite enjoy eating them. You're still saying it, you're still saying it. In the end, this little conflict was peacefully resolved after we both got scolded by our homeroom teacher. 16. While I was quickly writing my test paper, this guy kept holding his chin, occasionally hissing in pain. TSK, she looks so gentle and quiet, yet she hits so hard. I can also hear people whispering about it. Why is Chili so violent? She even hits people. Who would have thought? Who knows? No idea where she got the guts. Qin Ming looks like a punk, but she's not afraid of retaliation later. Who would want someone so fierce? I slammed the pen down, startling Qin Ming. Then they heard me whisper, I'm not the Chioli of the past anymore. Now I am, Neohuru Chioli. What? Of course he doesn't understand. Empresses in the Palace hasn't aired yet at this time. Where did you get the nerve? I've already died once. What wouldn't I dare to do? And my parents are still alive. I've returned to the best time of my life. I wake up happy every day. I'm truly overjoyed. Unexpectedly, Qin Ming turned his head, threw the pen, and shouted towards the whispering direction, "It's study hall. What are you talking about? Quiet, understand, be quiet." Those people didn't dare to argue with him. "You're not the discipline committee member." 17. Back in 2010, the new college entrance examination system hadn't been implemented yet. There were only arts and science tracks. It's almost time to choose between arts and science classes in the second year of high school, and I'm currently looking up job prospects for both fields. Final decision: I'm going to study arts. My father remains astonished by my sudden maturity as an abnormal phenomenon. "What, you really want to study liberal arts?" I put on my backpack and tied my hair into a high ponytail in front of the mirror. "Seriously, my math and physics grades aren't as good as my liberal arts scores. I have a good memory and fast memorization skills. Studying liberal arts will make it easier for me to take postgraduate exams and civil service exams later." My father was puzzled. "But you didn't want to take the civil service exam before. You said you didn't like a life where everything is predictable." The trend of people gravitating towards government jobs is inevitable in the future, although it's uncertain whether this parallel world will experience a pandemic. Civil service positions are truly appealing, working 9 to 5 and spending evenings with you all. I think that's the best kind of life. Who needs your company anyway? I cheerfully left my bewildered father behind and rode out on my rickety old bicycle. Both my parents are ordinary salaried workers. In my past life, they spent a fortune supporting my art studies. Studying art is a money pit, and our family had to tighten our belts just to get by, never able to save any money. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been unable to afford treatment when my mom's heart condition relapsed. Such a situation must never happen again. Every month, I coax and persuade my mom to go to the hospital for checkups. Fortunately, the doctor said my mom's condition is stable, and she just needs to be careful in daily life. But there's only one thing I didn't expect. When I transferred to the elite liberal arts class and was just about to sit down after arranging my desk and chair, suddenly a figure leaned over from beside me, smiling at me with two little canine teeth showing. "Hey, what a coincidence, little deskmate, Qin Ming." Qin Ming patted the dust off his coat and sat right beside me. "Why do you look so surprised? But didn't you study science in your past life? Why didn't you join the science class?" Qin Ming placed his backpack into the desk, putting the textbook there first and asking for permission later. If I go to the science class, whose homework am I going to copy? What a simple and unadorned reason. He took out 2 lollipops, handed one to me, and unabashedly unwrapped his in front of everyone before popping it into his mouth. "Liberal arts or science, it's all the same. My family's sending me abroad for college anyway in my senior year." Oh right, Qin Ming went abroad for studies during his senior year in his previous life. He wasn't meant to stay long. Young Master Qin's high school routine in his previous life wasn't much different from this one. Daily activities involved teasing chickens and dogs, taking TOEFL or IELTS practice tests in class, or sleeping with headphones on. Between classes, he'd gather his troublemaking friends to go wild, breaking school rules 800 times a day only to bribe his way out of trouble. When bored, he'd sneak off to the art class to flirt with the school beauty Sun Ting. The epitome of a spoiled young master. Who could have imagined he'd grow into a reliable adult 10 years later? Probably learned his lesson while studying abroad and started taking studies seriously. 18. Hey, by the way, why haven't you been visiting the art class lately? It's been ages since you last saw Sun Ting. I looked up from my practice problems, puzzled. Haven't you stopped going there lately either? Oh, they were going for training camp recently, and Lin Luoshan borrowed my class notes. I need to get them back from him before class. Qin Ming originally wanted to sleep with his head down, but probably got woken up by me, mumbling, "Then why haven't you been going to find Lin Luoshan lately?" Oh, I thought running back and forth like this was too troublesome, so I just gave him everything after school and get it back before class tomorrow. Qin Ming sneered sarcastically twice. Oh, he's really diligent. Just then someone called out to me, "Chiuli, Lin Luoshan is here to see you." Qin Ming completely gave up on sleeping and sprang up abruptly. It was the 8th class period, with the afterglow of the setting sun casting a warm hue on the boy's crisp white shirt. The youth by the door was slender yet upright in posture, like ink bamboo beyond the rain eaves, quietly elegant and refined, like someone who stepped out of an ink painting. Lin Luoshan gave me a faint smile and a slight nod. I hurriedly pulled the notebook from my bag and handed it to him. Old Zhang covered more college entrance essay strategies today. I took notes for you. Here." The young man received it with both hands and smiled in thanks. "By the way, Shaoli, my mom made corn ribs today. I'll bring some over for you guys tonight." "Oh, that's too kind of you." Qin Ming kept glancing back and forth between us, his eyes full of resentment. "Oh, what's the relationship here? Delivering meals, little deskmate, you never mentioned this to me." Lin Luoshan was taken aback, just about to speak when I cut him off with a loud shout. "His family and mine live in the same residential complex, so you could say we're neighbors by a roundabout connection. His mom and my mom get along quite well. The difference might be that his family has a 4-bedroom, 2-living room, 2-bathroom apartment, while mine only has 2 bedrooms and 1 living room." Crying. When Lin Luoshan left, the girls in our class were still propping their chins in their hands watching him, turning to say how envious they were of you. "Shaoli, what's there to envy?" Qin Ming snorted, then turned to press me further. "Why did you give him your notes?" "Me, 200 per subject for notes." Qin Ming fell silent for a long moment, then tentatively extended a finger. "What, you want it too?" 100 won't be enough." "Fine, since you're my deskmate, I'll give you half off." "No, my mom saw my report card the other day. She said she'd sacrifice family ties for justice." "What I mean is," Qin Ming's throat bobbed nervously twice, "are you free to tutor me this weekend? Only a fool turns down easy money." "How much can you pay per hour?" I stared at his outstretched hand. 1,000. Qin Ming looked at my instantly changed expression. "No, is that not enough? Then, stop." I promptly halted this naive rich young master. "Let's go by market rates. For one-on-one tutoring, it's usually 100 to 150 per hour. How much time can you dedicate to tutoring on weekends?" Qin Ming thought for a moment. "I have other classes on weekends, but I can spare 2 hours a day." I quickly calculated how long I could tutor him from now until senior year and how much money I could earn. "Here's the deal, I won't overcharge you, just 100 yuan per hour. We'll stay an extra hour after school each day, and I'll find an empty classroom for one-on-one tutoring. On weekends, it's 150 yuan because my original study schedule is tighter then." Qin Ming's face clearly read, "Why is this so cheap?" Meanwhile, I was ecstatic inside. 5 days, 5 hours, 500 yuan, weekends add up to 600, 100 per week, 4 weeks a month means 400, holy shit, I'm actually making 4,000 yuan a month in high school just by tutoring my rich deskmate. I immediately clenched Qin Ming's hand tightly, righteously declaring, "Deskmate, don't leave after school today." Qin Ming, 19, old Chiu and comrade Lao Li unanimously approved my tutoring arrangement for my deskmate, but I was too embarrassed to disclose how much he actually paid me. I feared they'd be so shocked they'd hold Qin Ming back and reject this marriage proposal overnight. I mean, this business deal. Since we've taken their money, we should do the job properly. I found some comprehensive test papers for Qin Ming to identify his weak knowledge points and chapters, then focused on tutoring those areas. I realized Qin Ming just wasn't studying hard, he actually grasps concepts very quickly when he applies himself. For some advanced math problems, his mind works even faster than mine. Once he arrived at the correct answer using a different method. As I compared it repeatedly with the pre-prepared answer sheet I had, I suddenly realized his approach was more straightforward. Teaching the apprentice didn't leave the master starving. Instead, it took them both to greater heights. Over time, our math routine mostly involved me finding problems, Qin Ming writing solutions, me questioning his answers, him patiently explaining his reasoning, and me having sudden realizations. I immediately refused the tutoring fee that day, insisting we could never accept payment for math sessions anymore. I still needed his help, and we'd progress together. Qin Ming couldn't win against my stubbornness. Fortunately, Qin Ming wasn't very good at liberal arts subjects like writing and politics, so I could still charge tutoring fees for those. He had a science-oriented mind while I had a liberal arts-oriented one. Over time, we complemented each other and made progress together, bringing out the best in each other. 20, however. This student had just one bad habit, easily distracted. That day we were working on sequence problems in an empty third-floor classroom. The sequences were relatively simple, and Qin Ming finished quickly. Then he propped his chin on his hand and just stared at me, zoning out. His stare made me uneasy, so I couldn't help but wave my hand in front of his eyes. Qin Ming suddenly grabbed my wrist. His palm was scorching hot. I felt like my wrist was being burned. I stared at him blankly. "The distance between us seems a bit too close." That second felt like an eternity. It seems like the first time I've seriously observed Qin Ming's appearance. The young man has deep-set eyes and handsome features. If Lin Luoshan is like water, gentle and mild, comparable to the moon, then Qin Ming is undoubtedly the sun, a light that breaks through the clouds and illuminates the darkest night. He's not smiling right now, yet I can almost see his usual grin, revealing his canine teeth. Like a little son, 21, deskmate, if you don't let go now, it'll be impolite. I dryly quoted a meme from 10 years later, watching him freeze before hastily releasing me. Qin Ming scratched his head awkwardly, as if searching for words. I meant to say, little deskmate, the subjects you need tutoring fees for are getting fewer. Shouldn't we raise the rates? Who do you think I am? I say no, not happening, absolutely not okay. Ever since you started tutoring me, my grades have skyrocketed, and I'm almost breaking into the top 100 in my grade. My mom asked about your tutoring fees and said she wants to increase them. I still refused. No, we agreed on a set price, and you're already paying quite generously, but your eyes light up when you talk about money. Qin Ming frowned. I don't understand why you're refusing. You clearly love money. Yes, I do love money. I lowered my head and whispered, that's because you've never experienced being broke. Xiao Ming, I do love money. But a gentleman acquires wealth through righteous means. Do you have to call me Xiao Ming? It makes me sound like the textbook character. I love calling you that. It's so cute. Xiao Ming, 22. These days I've been studying with the same intensity one used to earn and save money in my past life. I've found that the knowledge points which once seemed obscure and difficult to understand don't feel as challenging anymore. Qiu Dazhuang and Oldly both stared at me in shock, watching as I never put down the book in my hands. In this lifetime, I've completely stayed away from Sun Ting and stayed far from the art class. Whenever I have time, I just want to desperately do practice questions and tests, studying as hard as I can. I can't bring myself to play. Now I understand the value of studying. There are no shortcuts on this path of life. I didn't memorize the 2012 college entrance exam answers in my past life, and I don't need them in this lifetime either. If heaven gives me another chance to retake the college entrance exam, it's not for me to take shortcuts or seek opportunistic gains. The higher you climb, the harder you fall. It demands that I stay grounded, work diligently, remain true to my original aspirations, and forge ahead with perseverance. I don't need to get into a top-tier university either. I just want to study hard in this lifetime to get into a good college, making up for the regret of never attending university in my past life. I will strive for a bright future, for myself and for my parents. Because of the tutoring sessions, I've become quite familiar with Qin Ming's home in City A. His parents are abroad year-round and rarely return home, leaving only an old British butler to manage everything in the villa. During one tutoring session, an unexpected situation arose. Qin Ming received a phone call and had to leave temporarily, telling me to look around the place. If he hadn't returned by 5 p.m., someone would be arranged to take me home. Unable to sit still, I wandered around the corridor, peering here and there. The old butler followed behind me with a cheerful smile, introducing each ornament and decoration one by one, while sharing amusing stories from Qin Ming's childhood, until we reached the third floor, where a half-open door stood at the end of the hallway. I absent-mindedly glanced at it, then froze in place. That's the art studio. The madam occasionally used it when she visited, but it's been unused for a long time now. Would Miss Chiu like to take a look? I thought I could suppress my longing for painting. It's been a year since I returned without touching brushes or paints, but today, when I saw them, my hands were trembling. I sat before the canvas, skillfully unsealing the paper glue and preparing the brushes and paints as if I'd rehearsed it 10,000 times. I stared at the blank sheet before me, taking a deep breath. Then I picked up the pen. 23. I lost all sense of time passing, painting purely by mental imagery, coloring through muscle memory alone. Only painting allows me to wholeheartedly, temporarily forget everything around me, forget painful memories, forget hatred, and just paint quietly. The light outside the window shifts between brightness and darkness, while the colors blend and diffuse. I don't know how much time has passed. When I became somewhat clear-headed, it felt like the first time I was seeing what I had painted. Only O remains in my heart, the moon in heaven. What I drew was the outline of the moon in heaven. Some subtle details have imperceptibly changed, but overall it resembles its form. I don't know why I drew this, why I felt compelled to recreate the moon in heaven. Qin Ming stood right behind me, leaning against the doorframe, staring at me intently. I didn't know how long he had been standing there, but he remained quiet, watching me paint without making a sound. I turned my head, and his gaze shifted from the painting to me. He said, "It's very beautiful. You should have pursued art. You could have attended the best art university." That's what he said. I looked at him, and tears suddenly started flowing. Qin Ming took me home that day. I cried the whole way, sobbing uncontrollably. I wanted to ask him so many things, why he married Sun Ting, and to tell him that moon in the sky was painted by me, but I couldn't say anything because he didn't remember our past life. I don't recall what comforting words he said, only that he held me, and I ended up crying my heart out in his arms again. It turns out I could feel wrong too. Wrong that Sun Ting stole my painting. Moon in the Sky was never about her, it was always me, the silhouette of a woman weeping on the Atlantic coast. It was clearly me all along. How dare she be the moon in the sky, and how dare she call me the dirt beneath her feet? I resent that my past life was so stifling and wretched, filled with pain and torment. When I finally composed myself, I opened the door to the stern faces of Qiu Dezhuang and Madame Li. "Confess honestly, which brat are you secretly dating? It's over." They saw me hugging Qin Ming downstairs. Miss Li had sharp eyes. "Old Qiu, this boy looks familiar. Have we met somewhere before?" Qiu Dezhuang always reacts quickly at the most inappropriate times. "Hey, isn't that someone? I think it looks just like Lily's deskmate." "Is that him?" After discussing, they concluded, "No doubt about it. It's that kid, what's his name again, Qin something." "Yeah, it's him." Then Qiu Dezhuang started rummaging for a stick. "Where did this brat come from?" Eyeing our Lily. "Just wait, I'm gonna beat him up." Skipping studies in high school to chase after puppy love. Tsk tisk. Mrs. Li quickly held him back, whispered something in his ear, then smiled at me. "Lily, invite him over for dinner tomorrow. Your dad will cook braised pork ribs in the evening." But I feel that smile was a bit too nuclear friendly. Are these braised, really pork ribs? 24. During class the next day, I couldn't help but keep glancing at Qin Ming, stealing several secret looks at him under the cover of my textbook. I really don't know how to bring it up with him, but I think if I don't invite him home for dinner, Qiu Dezhuang's temper would make him storm straight to the school. Qin Ming was solving math problems when he seemed to notice something, quickly turning his head, while I swiftly averted my gaze. After a while, I sneakily took another peek. Qin Ming turned his head away from me, seemingly focused on solving the problems. But his hand was firmly pressed against the back of his neck. The fair neck suddenly flushed red near the ears. I thought this blush looked truly beautiful, exceptionally alluring. It made me want to take a bite. Then I got hit square on by the teacher's chalk. "Qiu Li, come up and solve this problem." On the blackboard was a quadratic function problem old Zhang had just finished drawing. Qin Ming was particularly good at functions. We had just solved a similar problem yesterday, so I confidently stepped up to the board. Old Zhang frowned as he examined my smooth and visually pleasing solution. Finding no flaws, he turned to me and asked, "You solved the problem perfectly, but do you know why I called you up here?" "Qiu Li, you keep glancing at your deskmate during class." The students dozing off in the back of the class instantly perked up. I looked down at the little radishes below, their eyes wide and sparkling as they stared at me. Because, I scratched my head, unable to think of a reason. Old Zhang stared at me, so I had no choice but to say, "Because he's good looking." So I looked. Old Zhang. "Classmates, wow." Qin Ming suddenly covered his face. The whole class erupted into the most enthusiastic applause at that moment. Old Zhang angrily slammed the table. "No laughing, no laughing. Everyone focus on the problem." Yet he couldn't suppress the jeers and laughter. During the oppressive high school years where lifting your head only revealed stacks of exam papers, under strict school regulations where nothing but studying was permitted, everything else was forbidden and labeled as frivolous pursuits, all passionate emotions and youthful audacity burst forth like the most vibrant colors, boldly painting the most striking strokes across the dull canvas of high school life. Combining both my past and present lives, this was the first time I'd ever received such thunderous applause and cheers. Old Zhang initially tried to stop us, but later leaned against the blackboard, watching our group of little rascals, and smiled helplessly. Then he quickly told me to get down, and I heard him mutter under his breath, "If it weren't for seeing your recent improvement in math, I wouldn't have let this slide so easily." I ran down with a cheeky grin. When class ended, I was hesitating about how to approach Qin Ming, but the moment the bell rang, he bolted out the door before I could even catch a glimpse of him. The classmates behind me were gossiping and poked me. "Hey, Did Qin Ming run away because you scared him? Exactly, look at old Jang's face, he's the most conservative one. You're really bold. Me, what? Can't I say someone looks good if they do? Them, damn, bro, on the rooftop. A youth in a white shirt stood like a sturdy pine or resilient bamboo, his face serene as his brush brought blossoms to life. The rooftop door was slammed open as a figure burst out in a flash, his hands gripped the railing desperately as he bent over, gasping for air. Then he slid down to sit on the ground, burying his entire face in his knees and arms, his face flushed crimson. Lin Luoshan was utterly dumbfounded. Classmate, what's wrong with you? Do you need help? Should I call 120 for you? Qin Ming raised his face, and Lin Luoshan froze before asking, did you get heatstroke? Then Qin Ming suddenly cursed loudly, what the hell are you doing here? Lin Luoshan spread his hands, just avoiding Sun Ting for a bit. Lin Luoshan had heard of Qin Ming's reputation as the tyrant of no, too high more than once. The usually wild and unruly teenager was now blushing shyly, like a fierce beast revealing its soft underbelly for once. Now the beast was acting awkward yet boastful. Tilting his chin up at him, Chioli confessed to me, Lin Luoshan. After Qin Ming left, Lin Luoshan silently took out his phone and dialed a number. Hello, Uncle Chiu. Chioli is in a puppy love relationship. When Qin Ming walked into the classroom expressionlessly and was about to sit down, I seized the opportunity to quickly say, my mom wants you to come over for dinner tonight. I heard the sound of a chair falling over. Throughout the entire day's classes, Qin Ming inexplicably had a sense of tension. He got 3 English questions wrong and copied the wrong numbers in physics problems. I could tell his mind was elsewhere. It can't be that serious, right? I just teased him a little during math class. When school ended, he rushed off in a hurry, even skipping today's tutoring session. On the way home from school, Lin Luoshan unexpectedly followed me and sternly recited the school rules to me. They particularly emphasized the rule about no early romance. Lin Luoshan kept his eyes on the road ahead, but his words were directed at me. Xiaoli, Qin Ming isn't someone with our background should mess with. Do you know who he is? My smile faded as well. I know, Lin Luoshan sighed. Xiaoli, you've been painting with me since we were kids. I'm an only child, and I treat you like a real sister. Otherwise, I wouldn't be saying such unpleasant things to you. He looked at me. Did you know Qin Ming's family is sending him abroad? He'll be gone for many years. Do you really think there's a future between you two? Don't get in too deep, Xiaoli. I know, I said I've always known. I shouldn't have dared to hope either. Just as I was feeling emotional, a beautiful girl with long flowing hair and graceful demeanor walked over. She stopped beside Lin Luoshan and examined me with a scrutinizing gaze. It was Sun Ting. My eyes instantly turned cold. This time she didn't recognize me, just looked at me with her usual demeanor, using that gaze beautiful girls reserve for ordinary girls. Asian, who is she? Just like in my past life, she acted all high and mighty while pretending to be gentle and accepting, holding my hand as she said, the new CEO of Qin Corporation proposed to me. I'm going to become Mrs. Qin. You're happy for me too, right? Xiaoli, happy. I set a fire that very day. Let's all die together. Wipe the slate clean. So in this lifetime I don't want to deal with her. As long as she doesn't provoke me, I won't cause her trouble. She thought I'd forgotten. The transfer student who was my desk mate before I changed classes was named Qin Ming. To this day, I'm still puzzled why she didn't dare tell me that the person she was marrying was Qin Ming. I immediately blurted out, I'm his sister. Then I pushed away Lin Luoshan, who was silently pleading for help with his eyes, and went home alone. I just couldn't understand why Qin Ming, after studying abroad for so many years in his previous life, still couldn't forget his first love and propose to her. In my past life, I burnt his beloved fiancé to death. I don't even know if he scattered my ashes, but he was so furious he found a Taoist priest to curse me with eternal unrest. In my past life, I adored Lin Luoshan. It was a childhood admiration that lasted into adulthood, but truthfully, switching to study art was more because of my own genuine passion. What about Qin Ming then? I asked myself, what about Qin Ming then? Didn't even agree to come to my place for dinner, fled overnight. Maybe I overthought it. What's the matter, Chioli? Why are you so greedy, daydreaming in broad daylight? Could it be you're aiming to climb up the Qin family ladder and live the good life as their young mistress? Ordinary folks should just focus on getting into college, grad school, or civil service exams. With no men in your heart, drawing your sword feels divine. But why can Sun Ting be with Qin Ming? Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. I was just about to tell my mom that Qin Ming wasn't coming when the doorbell suddenly rang. Qiu Dezhuang put down the spatula and volunteered to answer the door. My dad froze in place. My mother called out in confusion, "Qiu Dezhuang, what's wrong with you?" and then followed after him. The couple stood petrified in place. Across from them stood a tall, long-legged young man in a well-tailored suit. I almost didn't recognize him. He'd even styled his hair, tidying up the usual messy strands. Behind Qin Ming stood the old butler, along with several men in suits carrying gift boxes, maintaining a 2-meter distance. My dad and mom stared at Qin Ming, who stood stiffly with perfect posture, and the gift boxes that nearly filled the entire first-floor hallway. They were completely stunned. 25, according to my dad, Comrade Qiu Dezhuang. He later admitted being terrified by the grand display, initially thinking Qin Ming had come to propose marriage. Then Qin Ming got quite nervous and solemnly greeted them as uncle and auntie, which made my dad even more concerned. Qiu Dezhuang panicked and said, "Just eat your meal, why bring so many things?" As common folks like us, we'd never seen such a grand spectacle in our lives. I was dumbfounded too, watching the old butler and my dad engage in a back-and-forth battle. "Please accept it. Miss Qiu has worked hard tutoring our young master." "No, no, take it back. It's also our madam's wish, just a small token of appreciation," and so on. I quickly pulled Qin Ming aside. "Why are you dressed like this? You. Qin Ming nervously adjusted his collar upon hearing this. "And no, does it not look good? I thought since it's my first time meeting your uncle and aunt, I should dress more formally." The way he looked at me, like a child who'd done something wrong, made me even more nervous. I quickly shook my head. "That's not what I meant. It looks good, and no, not just good, it's handsome, very handsome." "Oh, what am I even saying?" Qin Ming's eyes instantly lit up, pupils dilating with a galaxy-like sparkle that left me momentarily stunned. Even his shy, evasive gaze blurred as I faintly recalled, never in my past life chasing Lin Luoshan had I seen eyes this breathtaking. They shimmered, they galaxy glistened, they gazed only at me. When I spied that familiar yet strange Qin Group CEO while tailing Sun Ting behind the door, those icy eyes barely connected with the ones before me now. While staring intently into Qin Ming's eyes, I failed to notice the young man's fair face rapidly flushing, just as he was about to reach out. My father abruptly called for him to stop. Hey, what are you two doing?" My father frowned at me. It was clear that if there weren't outsiders present, he would have scolded me directly. "Come inside and wash your hands for dinner." I think they actually intended to set up a trap banquet, but Qin Ming's unexpected move caught them off guard. Qiu Dezhuang couldn't refuse the butler's insistence and was forced to leave behind several gift boxes. Then sat gloomily at the dining table picking at his rice. Li kept enthusiastically urging Qin Ming to eat. After Qin Ming lavishly praised their signature dishes, he suddenly changed the subject, saying his parents had never cooked for him, putting on an envious expression. That fleeting look of loneliness in his eyes somehow precisely struck a chord with Li, unleashing boundless maternal love. Then I watched as my mother used serving chopsticks to take the dishes in front of me, while Qin Ming's bowl was piled high with food beneath his smiling face. "No, Mom, is there a possibility that I'm actually your biological daughter?" Qiu Dezhuang cleared his throat with a fist pressed to his mouth. Looks like Dad remembered his lines. He gave a dissatisfied glance at my mom, who was already charmed by Qin Ming, and finally got to the point. "Qin Ming, our Lily has told us everything. Her improvement in math is all thanks to you. We really want to express our gratitude." Then my father picked up the teacup. "You're still underage now." He emphasized the words underage. "Good kids shouldn't drink alcohol. Today, let's substitute juice for wine." Qin Ming quickly raised his teacup too, reacting swiftly. No. If Chioli hadn't tutored me, my grades wouldn't be this good now." "Uncle, you're giving me too much credit." My father was very pleased. "Ah, that's the right attitude. Learn from each other and make progress together. Senior year is coming soon. The more critical this time is, the more you need to focus single-mindedly, study hard. I know you're both good kids who wouldn't make adults worry. Let's work hard next year and get into good universities." "I get it now." My dad subtly hinting at us here. No wonder my dad's so sharp. He didn't say it outright, but every word seemed like a veiled suggestion. Qin Ming paused, then smiled and responded earnestly. "Understood, Uncle Qiu, right now. Chioli and I share the same top priority, acing the college entrance exams. we'll work hard to get into a good university together, so please don't worry. My dad was generally satisfied, though old Chiu still seemed displeased with terms like we and together. During dinner, my father took Qin Ming aside privately, and the two talked for a while. I didn't know what they discussed, but my father's relieved and reassured expression when he came out only deepened my confusion. As we were leaving, old Chiu and old Li stood on either side of Qin Ming, while my mother held his hand warmly, urging him to come over for meals often. My father patted his shoulder and said, "Young man, your future is boundless, keep up the good work." "Lily, see him off." "No need, uncle, it's not safe for a girl to go out alone at night, they're waiting for me downstairs, no need to send me off." As he was leaving, Qin Ming turned his head and stole a glance at me, then he smiled at me, revealing his little canine teeth. 26. Qin Ming took half a day off. I heard his mother had returned and there were some family matters to attend to. Bored, I slumped on the desk, itching to doodle, so I fished out a marker and found a notebook to scribble in. By the time I realized it, a familiar silhouette had already taken shape on the paper. The classmate behind me suddenly leaned over, exclaiming, "Oh my," as she snatched it away. "Isn't this Qin Ming you drew?" "Still saying nothing's going on between you two. Why would you doodle him if nothing's going on?" I snatched it back with a whoosh, trying to cover up by shielding it with my arm. "No way, no way, I was just doodling out of boredom." The girl sitting behind me was a short-haired bespectacled lass. She looked at me and let out a mischievous "heh chuckle. "The whole class is gossiping about you two now. Though he's not as handsome as Lin the school heartthrob. Qin Ming is quite good-looking too. Come on, a guy who blushes is super adorable." I got defensive immediately. "Who said he's not as handsome as Lin Luoshin? What's wrong with your eyesight? Trust me, Qin Ming's type will be killing it 10 years later." "But how did he grow into that cold CEO personality later? He's so lively right now." The classmate behind me clicked their tongue. "See, a voluntary confession without pressure. But we recently came up with a name for you two as a couple. Like a CP, how about Dawn CP? Oh wait, the Dawn couple sounds better, much better." The popular 2008 Korean variety show We Got Married instantly sparked trends like couples and CP pairings. The girl sitting behind me was a total trendsetter, always at the forefront of fads. She was the first to ship Qin Ming and me as a CP and make others stan us. I immediately grabbed her arm to beg for mercy, urging her to drop this idea, otherwise the whole class would be calling us that by tomorrow. So embarrassing. Don't I have any dignity left? The homeroom teacher will definitely call me in for a talk. Then she giggled and ran away from me. I was utterly devastated. I couldn't even imagine what expression Qin Ming would have when he heard about this nonsense in the afternoon. Oh right, why isn't he back yet? 27. At noon after school. As I was rushing home on my beat-up bike, I saw someone. Sun Ting. Sun Ting had already transferred to the art class, thanks to her principal father, successfully ending up in the same class as Lin Luoshin, just like in the previous life, except for that girl beside her. The one wearing glasses, fair-skinned and delicate-looking, is Sun Yanyan. In my past life, Sun Yanyan was also in the same art class as me. She was excellent at drawing, especially still life sketches, if I remember correctly. She went to Lucerne Academy of Fine Arts in that lifetime. Watching Sun Ting pulling Sun Yanyan along affectionately, my heart suddenly skipped a beat. I didn't study art in this lifetime. Could that scumbag father and daughter still be plotting to steal and replace someone else's artwork? They actually set their sights on Sun Yanyan. I cursed under my breath. The regular college entrance examination admission system has implemented online registration and enrollment since 2001, making it quite difficult to scheme in recent years. But art exams are different. In an era when surveillance wasn't yet fully widespread, and invigilation didn't utilize AI electronic systems or information technology, there were too many loopholes to exploit in art school entrance exams and joint provincial exams. I struggled all the way wondering whether to meddle in others' affairs, having been drenched by rain myself. I can't bear to see others stay dry. I want to snap their umbrellas. 28. That very afternoon after school, I cornered Sun Yanyan. "Be careful of Sun Ting during the exam. Keep your wits about you and stay alert. If a proctor keeps staring at you while you're drawing, be careful, she might swap your paper." Sun Yanyan was a soft-spoken girl with a gentle voice. Perhaps startled by me, she asked timidly, "Why would they swap papers, and who would they give it to?" I could tell at a glance that this girl was the type to be bullied, easily pushed around, and too afraid to speak up. Just imagining Sun Ting stealing her artwork to get into Lucen Academy of Fine Arts, leaving Sun Yanyan weeping helplessly, made me furious. The 10 years I endured, should I let other victims go through the same ordeal? Whoever I warn you to be careful about is exactly who you should avoid. Just keep your guard up. I don't have any better ideas, so I can only give you this warning. Stay away from her. Sun Yanyan agreed softly and gently. Okay, Shaoli. I still felt a bit uneasy, so I immediately went to find Lin Luoshan and reminded him about this matter, telling him to be careful too, prepare for a rainy day, hope it's useful. Right now, I'm powerless to confront Sun Ting and her father. All I can do is warn others to be careful of them, but 9 times out of 10, Sun Ting has set her sights on Sun Yanyan, on the Friday before final exams. At the parent-teacher conference, I met Qin Ming's mother, the long-rumored Madame Qin, 29. Xiao Dezhuan volunteered to attend the parent-teacher conference for me, as my recent monthly exam results were quite impressive. With my memory and the advantage of Qin Ming's tutoring in science subjects, my total score surprisingly broke into the top 50 in my grade. No, Tu High School is a prestigious key school in the city, packed with top students. Making it to the top 50 in the grade means a good first-tier university is practically within reach. I wouldn't have dared to dream of this in the past. In my past life, my academic performance was barely enough to meet the minimum requirements for a first-tier university. It was only because my homeroom teacher at the time was being generous and wanted to keep me that they told my dad I had a shot at getting into a 211 university if I pushed myself. Even among first-tier universities, there are differences in quality between the top and second-tier ones. The homeroom teacher was just being polite, never expecting that I'd actually have the confidence to aim for a 211 now, but my new homeroom teacher has even higher hopes for me, wanting me to get into a 985 university. The teachers really think too highly of me. Ms. Chiu, goodness, in my past life I never even set foot in a university, hee. Just thinking about it makes me happy. At the parent-teacher conference, they mostly just gave some motivational speeches. All the subject teachers specifically praised me and Qin Ming, completely avoiding any mention of the suspected puppy love situation. Instead, they used us as examples to motivate other students to keep learning and not slack off, showing that people can continuously improve. Ah, you ask how I know? Well, I was eavesdropping by the back door, listening to what was being said inside. Qin Ming, standing beside me, face-bombed and said I was being too obvious. The homeroom teacher and others could see me. The meeting was about to end, so he tried to pull me away. Qin Ming had barely pulled me a few steps away when a clear, melodious voice suddenly called out from behind, Ming Ming. Qin Ming instinctively tightened his grip on my hand as he turned around in panic, looking at the woman standing not far away, dressed in a flax-colored long dress. It was the first time I'd seen a woman who could wear flaxen hues so beautifully and gracefully. Her fisherman's hat and light-colored sunglasses, along with her linen-textured clothing, made her appear exceptionally ethereal. She walked in high heels, gliding toward us as elegantly as a fish. Ming Ming, why aren't you introducing me to your mom? Then, without waiting for Qin Ming's reply, she calmly took off her sunglasses and looked at me. You're so beautiful. I stared blankly at her face, and the words slipped out before I could even think. To my surprise, Madame Qin covered her mouth slightly and burst into laughter. Her laughter was as clear and crisp as silver bells. So that's how it sounded. Son, your little deskmate is quite amusing. Madame Qin looked at me with a smile. Such sweet words. Mother loves hearing them. Qin Ming suddenly let out a long sigh of relief. So you're chilly, she began. I thought her next words would be I've heard so much about you from my son. Or something about thanking me for tutoring her son. That painting of yours is really quite good. It's been a while since I've seen a work that satisfied me this much. The young lady has remarkable talent. I never expected the first thing she'd mention would be moon in heaven. I'd left that painting at Qin Ming's place after last time. I'd occasionally work on it during weekend tutoring sessions. But truth be told, it still wasn't finished. Ming Ming said you drew this, and at first I could hardly believe it. Without exaggeration, there's a touch of a master's style in it. Madame Qin's facial features are generally gentle, but when her eyes look at someone, it gives a somewhat uncomfortable feeling, as if being seen through. But at such a young age, you can create works like this. Would you be interested in further studies at the Paris Academy of Fine Arts? I froze for a moment, instinctively shaking my head in denial. No, I'm not studying art. I want to take the civil service exam. To stay with my parents, Mrs. Chin gave me a surprised glance, slightly disappointed. Little Chili is so attached to home, civil service, such an uncreative job, Mom. Chin Ming immediately intervened, and Mrs. Chin reluctantly changed the subject. Ah, I remember now. Ming Ming's grades have actually improved to the top 100 in his grade this time. He used to be unwilling to study. And these days he hasn't been fighting or skipping class either. It's all thanks to you, Mrs. Chin spoke while lowering her head to rummage through her bag. To make my son willingly attend school, this tutoring fee is far too low. Take this money. It's our way of thanking you, both me and his father. A pre-prepared red envelope appeared before my eyes. I felt quite flustered, especially awkward as I watched her take out a red envelope to hand to me. I found it very strange. The way the red envelope was given felt like a boss handing out bonuses to employees. At that moment, I genuinely felt it was very odd and uncomfortable, instinctively refusing by waving my hand and stepping back. Auntie, no need, no need. I should only take the tutoring fee I deserve. Chin Ming has also helped me with science subjects, so I really can't accept this money. Thank you, Auntie. Chin Ming held her back. Mom. Mrs. Chin glanced at her son and slowly put the red envelope back. In that case, I have other matters to attend to later. I'll take my leave now. Ming Ming, come home early today. Your father is returning tonight. After she left, Chin Ming gave me an apologetic look. My mom is always like this. Don't take it to heart. She's a bit. I smiled at him. I know. Auntie is quite nice and easy to get along with. Seeing that my expression showed nothing unusual, Chin Ming felt relieved and followed her. Mom, why did you give Chioli a red envelope? She's my friend, not Dad's employee or your assistant. Mrs. Chin walked at a leisurely pace, her expression unchanging. Ming Ming, you know why your father is coming back, right? After summer vacation, you'll be a senior in high school. Your father has already arranged everything for your study abroad. Chin Ming froze on the spot. I don't want to go. Tell my dad I won't be going. When the old butler caught up, he happened to see Mrs. Chin watching as Chin Ming stormed off angrily. How rebellious, suddenly deciding not to go when everything was fine. There's definitely something fishy going on. Mrs. Chin sighed. The old butler looked worriedly at the young master's retreating figure as he opened the car door. Have you met Miss Chioli yet? I have. Mrs. Chin got into the car, lost in thought. How to put it? It's different from what I imagined, yet somehow the same. Tell me, how could a flower raised in a greenhouse since its teens paint something so full of despair? Without experiencing disasters and misfortunes that could torment one for a lifetime, enduring suffering, living in pain and despair with no hope for tomorrow, feeling every day like walking on the knife's edge, the mermaid traded her tail for. One simply couldn't paint like this. The butler listened in confusion, but didn't skimp on the flattery. Madam truly understands art best, but where exactly is the sameness you mentioned? Lady Chin nodded slightly. From her, I seem to perceive a profound sorrow. 30. Ever since meeting Lady Chin, I've been inexplicably restless. Her artistic aura is intense, yet this sense of artistry only makes me think of painting, which in turn reminds me of my hopeless past life, destitute and driven to despair. The moon in the sky, the extinct species in paintings. I finally understand why so many genius painters lived poorly, only becoming famous after death. In this year of rebirth, I didn't dare touch anything related to art again. I avoided the studio, rarely saw Lin Luoshan, and steered clear of Sun Ting, because the painting talent I once took pride in became the fuse that ignited my tragic life. I'd rather live in obscurity and peace. After final exams, Madam Chin sent someone to deliver my moon in heaven to me. It's been so long since I last painted it. I'm living happily now, so much so that I dare not even touch it. A painting intimately connected to my death in a past life, containing my deepest despair and agony. All I can feel towards it now is fear. I found a cloth and covered it. Chin Ming has been in a semi-missing state since the final exams. The tutoring has been temporarily suspended. When I text him, it takes him a long time to reply, just saying he's fine and that there are family matters. This can't go on forever. It's not a sustainable solution, because the SMS fee is actually quite expensive. I went to his house looking for him, worried that something might have happened, but the entire villa was empty except for the cleaning staff. Both the old butler and Chin Ming had left. The unease in my heart grew stronger and stronger, even if Chin Ming told me they were going back to the capital for the holidays, so they left. But I'm afraid he'll leave without a word, And I start constantly wondering if his family has secretly sent him abroad to study. Qin Ming's response has always been to avoid the issue. He says he won't go, but he hasn't explained to me why he's leaving or when he might return. 31. I started constantly losing focus while studying. I know I feel extremely anxious inside, inexplicably anxious. My mind is in such turmoil, truly chaotic. I don't know what I'm thinking, but there's a voice in my head that keeps saying, keeps repeating, Chili, Chili. The future cannot be changed. Qin Ming will still leave, and your parents. Can they really survive? The butterfly effect. At night I began tossing and turning, unable to sleep a wink throughout the entire night. I dare not close my eyes. These past few days, whenever I close my eyes, I dream of a torrential rainy night where I kneel before my father's coffin, crying and begging them not to bury him, while my mother collapses in front of his casket. I gritted my teeth and handled my father's funeral arrangements, devoting my whole heart to caring for my mother. In the gloomy atmosphere, the hospital bills flow like water every day, and our money is nearly depleted. When my mother saw the exorbitant cost of the surgery, she was already struggling to speak at that point, and she said, "Don't treat me, don't treat me. It won't cure me. If I die, where will you get the money to pay back all that debt?" I refused. I knelt before the doctors and nurses, sought help from relatives only to be turned away, and even went to loan sharks, but my mother didn't want to burden me. By the time I finally scraped together the money and returned to the hospital, it was within the deadline given by the doctor. She stopped breathing. The next night, I dreamed I was in an art exam room as I was painting. The artwork before my eyes suddenly transformed into a deliberately poorly executed piece, one I'd never seen before, but I knew it was Sun Ting's work. I failed the exam again. On the third night, my 20-something self dragged my exhausted body after finishing the third part-time job of the day, then suddenly clutched a roadside trash can, covering my mouth as violent coughs racked me. Then I saw streaks of blood in the palm of my hand, then I fell heavily onto the road. The red blood streaks dripped into the red paint. I numbly wiped the blood gushing from my nose and, dizzily, picked up the brush to write red characters on the canvas. A few days ago, I saw the studio assistant take Sun Ting's money, so I placed the finished artwork in the most prominent position to make things easier for them, but I kept painting non-stop to submit Sun Ting's competition entry, until I felt nauseous from exhaustion. On the fourth night, Moon in Heaven was finally completed. But as I set the fire, a group of armed police stormed into Sun Ting's villa and pinned me to the ground. I watched helplessly as a familiar figure emerged from behind, wearing a black trench coat. It was Qin Ming. 10 years later, he looked down at me with cold indifference. Sun Ting walked up to me, crouched down, and with that beautiful yet venomous face, pinched my chin, whispering word by word, "Chiu Li, did you think you were the only one who was reborn? Thank you for those paintings." Which brought Qin Ming to my side. "After all, we were once close friends. The officers specially allowed you to attend our wedding before going to prison. Aren't you happy?" My eyes nearly burst with rage. My heart was torn apart. I wished I could cut her into 1,000 pieces and perish together with her. When I opened my eyes, my back was drenched in sweat. These nightmare-ridden days keep replaying the events of my past life in an endless cycle. Every time I wake up startled from the dream, I fall off the bed, then scramble up to grab my brush and tear open the canvas. Every late night, when my nerves are stretched to the breaking point, in this state of extreme tension, I paint the moon in heaven like a madman. I don't even know why I do this, but only by doing this can I feel slightly better. Seeing me float out of the room with unsteady steps and dark circles under my eyes every day, Ms. Li thought some evil spirit had possessed me and nearly panicked enough to call a Taoist priest for an exorcism. I painstakingly painted for several nights. The process of creating Moon in Heaven was extremely agonizing, and I could only complete it in the state of being awakened from nightmares late at night. When the final stroke was done, I suddenly felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. The night passed without dreams. 32. Strangely enough, after completing Moon in the Sky, I never had nightmares again, nor did I experience such painful emotions. After recovering, I went downstairs with Qiu Dazhuang and Ms. Li for an evening stroll around the neighborhood. Qin Ming stood under the orange streetlight, gazing at me intently. Ms. Li later described that day, saying, "My eyes lit up the moment I saw Qin Ming. I told them briefly, then ran quickly towards him. The moment I saw him, I had countless things I wanted to say, but when I stood before him, my eyes slowly grew warm. And I said with a smile, 'Qin Ming, how come you've lost weight? Qin Ming saw me running towards him and instinctively wanted to open his arms. But he forcibly controlled himself and lowered them. He had lost weight, really a lot. He stood there, looking travel-worn. It seemed like he had rushed overnight without stopping. There was an air of haste about him. I keenly sensed that something had happened, otherwise, Qin Ming wouldn't have lost so much weight these days. His back slightly hunched. I didn't dare to guess what hardships he had endured. The moment Qin Ming saw me, his first reaction was to smile. I saw that little canine-toothed smile again. He didn't answer the question, his eyes crinkling as he asked with a smile, "Little deskmate, why have you lost weight too?" Not far away, I saw the old butler and a group of bodyguards I'd never met before. Qin Ming's condition didn't seem like that of someone who'd won a battle. He suddenly rushed over at night, as if it were the last time he came to see me. I knew he hadn't stood up to his family. In my previous life, I only learned about his family background 10 years later. It was a status I wouldn't dare dream of reaching in 8 lifetimes. The moment I saw Mrs. Qin, I knew her family's stance. It almost completely extinguished that last sliver of delusion in me. How could he ever stand against his father? Yet this young man, this very boy before me, came to see me on a July night, cloaked in thick darkness, like a solitary hero. 33. The next day when I went to Qin Ming's house, it was the old butler who received me. The young master is still catching up on sleep. The moment the old master gave permission, this child rushed back without resting at all. Sigh. I took the black tea. The old butler seemed to have much to say, yet appeared to be holding back for some reason. After some deliberation, everything remained swallowed in silence. I found myself unconsciously touching the teacup, feeling unsettled. For a moment, no one spoke, and silence prevailed. In the profound stillness, the elderly man across suddenly spoke slowly. "I've raised the young master since he was a child. To be honest, even the master and mistress don't understand his temperament as well as I do, Miss Chiu. The Qin family's assets are far more extensive than you can imagine. With the master and mistress having only this one child, the burden on the young master's shoulders in the future will be beyond your estimation." At his previous school, the young master beat up several children of company and conglomerate bosses. Relying on his family background, he ran wild at school, becoming utterly lawless. That's why the master got angry and sent him here. It's long been said that No. 2 high school has a strong academic atmosphere. So they hoped it would help temper the young master's character. No wonder Qin Ming seemed so punchable when he first arrived. Turns out he was always a little troublemaker. The old butler's tone suddenly softened. But I know the young master wasn't inherently a bad child. He just wanted to get his parents' attention this way. The young master never wanted to come here in the first place. The academic pressure was heavy, the environment was poor. He despised everything about this place when he first arrived, counting the days until his father would send him abroad to study. Gradually, the boy stopped mentioning it and began talking to me about his deskmate, that girl who hit him on the first day of school. The old butler smiled at me as he spoke, and I lowered my head in embarrassment. "So you've known about me all along, indeed." There aren't many who dare to hit the young master. The young master said his little deskmate studies extremely hard, more diligently than anyone around her. Though she's not among the top performers in class, she never dares to slack off for even a moment. The young master said that before he went to sleep, the girl was working on test papers, and when he woke up, she was still at it. That was the sleepiest time of day when everyone in class was dozing off, yet she remained awake, her eyes shining as she stared at the papers. Qin Ming once teased me, calling me a zealous believer in studying. At the time, I was struggling with math problems and only replied, "I don't even like studying at all." The young master asked me, "Why do some people dislike studying yet are so passionate about it?" I feel this question carries a bit of a let them eat cake tone. For ordinary families, studying is usually the only way out, and also the best way out. The old butler smiled and said he had told Qin Ming the same thing. Then suddenly one day, the young master's backpack finally started carrying textbooks. When I asked, "I learned that you were going to tutor him and test him on reciting texts the next day," he started laughing as he said this. The atmosphere is now harmonious and joyful. The old butler shared many stories from the past, including things about Qin Ming. Then he suddenly spoke to me in a more serious tone, "Miss Chiu, the young master has improved greatly now, and you deserve much of the credit." This is also what I reported to the master and madam. They are actually well aware of it. They also know why he suddenly changed his mind, opposed the family. and defied the master's arrangements. Even I can tell that this child really likes you, but Miss Joe, in this world, affection alone cannot accomplish anything. I once heard a saying somewhere. Don't listen to what a person says, listen to what they leave unsaid. What the old butler left unsaid was probably, Qin Ming defied his parents' arrangements for your sake, but in their eyes, this affection holds no value. My heart ached, but then I suddenly realized something. In Qin Ming's previous life, he didn't leave until mid-semester of senior year. Why is there such urgency to send him away right after sophomore year in this life? This doesn't add up. Then I hurriedly raised my head, clinging to the last shred of hope. I remember Qin Ming saying that his parents planned for him to study abroad during senior year of high school. It's only just the end of sophomore year. Why, that was the original plan, but unexpectedly, the young master has matured much more recently. Seeing the change in him, the master decided to move it up. After all, the earlier one studies abroad, the better. I couldn't make out what he said after that. In that moment, my mind went completely blank, my ears ringing. I was completely stunned. It was me, all because of me, that Qin Ming left early. If I hadn't tutored him, he wouldn't have corrected his study attitude so quickly, his grades wouldn't have improved dramatically, and his father wouldn't have noticed. Accelerating the study abroad plan, the butterfly effect, it's really coming true. Nothing will change, absolutely nothing will change, but I've never regretted it. Chili never regrets her decisions. Before knowing Qin Ming, I didn't care who he was or what his background was, but after getting to know him and becoming very familiar with him, I realized he was a truly good, wonderful young man who deserved a grand and brilliant life. I also hoped he would grow and improve. Little did I know this would only hasten his departure. The old steward continued. The mistress is quite open-minded. After discussing with the master, she proposed sending you abroad for studies as well. She's already picked a school in Paris. Ever since she saw that painting you made, her opinion of you changed. I suddenly spoke up, but I heard Qin Ming isn't studying in that country. Even if I go, we'd still be thousands of miles apart. I'm not some naive 17 or 18-year-old autumn pear. I've lived a lifetime already. I'm no fool. I understand the underlying meaning in Madame Qin's words. I looked at him, enunciating each word clearly. Madame Qin never changed her mind. Whether it's Paris or here, there's no difference. From start to finish, their goal was to separate me and Qin Ming. The old butler paused for a moment. But this way, it's actually good for both of you, Miss Chiu. To be honest, Madame's suggestion is really excellent. You could further your studies in Paris, with your talent. Perhaps, there's no need. Thank you for your kindness, but I won't abandon my parents to go somewhere so far away alone. I'm their only child. Fame and fortune mean nothing to me compared to family. If fame and fortune were so important, why would I have willingly yielded them to Sun Ting in my previous life? Whether I go to Paris or not, it's my painting Moon in the Sky that will win the award. If I go now, what would be the point of living this life over again? The old butler sighed and dropped the subject. The young master refused too. He tried every means to persuade his father. But the master is not someone so easily swayed. At first, he threatened to jump off a building to force the master's hand, which infuriated the master and led to a huge argument. Then he was locked up, and all sharp objects were confiscated. In the end, the young master simply went on a hunger strike, refusing to eat no matter who tried to persuade or deliver food to him. No wonder he came back looking so much thinner. My heart almost stopped hearing this, and I urgently pressed him. And then, did anything bad happen to him? The old butler brought this up with a heavy heart, and the way he looked at me even carried a hint of reproach. The boy went days without a drop of water and fainted after just a few days. Even the master, as hard-hearted as he was, got scared out of his wits. The mistress was so angry she had a big fight with the master, and in the end, they both compromised. The old butler looked at me and said his final words to me. They agreed to a 1-month delay, permitting Qin Ming to return and bid you farewell. I instantly gripped the armrest of the sofa tightly. 34. I sat dazedly before Moon in heaven for a long while. In the afternoon, my phone suddenly rang. It's Qin Ming. He only said one sentence. Little deskmate, do you want to go to Tibet with me? If I hadn't heard these things from the old butler, I would have thought he was joking with me, that it was a sudden whim, but after hearing the whole story, now I just feel like he was saying his last wish. So I made the bravest and most decisive decision of my life. Where should we meet? Qin Ming was stunned. These 2 days work for me, whenever you're free. But wait, Will your parents agree? Let's go now. I held the phone with my shoulder while rummaging for a suitcase. Hold on, Xiaoming. I'll come find you after packing. After hanging up, even if Cuteswing scolds me, I'll still steal their suitcase and pack my bags without delay. I stubbornly insisted I must go, saying if he fought for me, why can't I take 2 steps toward him? Cuteswing firmly refused, blocking the doorway to prevent me from leaving. Dad, Ming will be leaving in a month and won't be back for many years. It'll be 7 or 8 years before he returns. I can still go to Tibet many more times. And I can still travel to many places with you all, but I might not get another chance to go with him. We don't have much time left together. Qiu Dezhuang suddenly slid down from the door and wordlessly went to the bedroom. After a while, he came out holding a camera. I recognized it as his prized digital camera that he usually kept stored away. Qiu Dezhuang patted my head. Carrying cash when traveling is inconvenient. Take this card, the pin is your birthday. I heard Tibet is incredibly beautiful, so take lots of photos to show us when you return. Once your mother's heart condition improves, our family of 3 will make time to go together. Darling, help Lily pack her things. I stared blankly at the 2 of them discussing what to pack for me. My eyes welled up with warmth, and suddenly, I understood why I had lost the will to live in my past life after losing them. I will truly love Cuteswang and Laoli forever. An hour later, I flashed a bright smile at Qin Ming, ready to go anytime. Classmate Xiaoming. Qin Ming was still dazed, not fully recovered from the shock, but he curled his lips and said with a smile, "Let's go." Just as Qin Ming was about to book plane tickets, his father called, saying he had already sent a plane over. The suffocating feeling of being watched made me somewhat uncomfortable. A shadow passed over Qin Ming's face as he forced a smile, pretending not to care. Then our whole group set off for Tibetan Grand Procession. Why use Grand Procession to describe it? Because aside from the extra bodyguards Qin Ming had brought this time, another group of people disembarked from the plane that landed at the private airstrip behind the villa. Has Qin Ming always lived in this kind of environment? Oh, it wasn't this terrifying at first. It's because of me. After he resisted his parents, they increased the number of overseers several times over. Thinking about this fills me with guilt, but fortunately, the old butler also went along this time. He's still strong and healthy, patting his chest while boasting that he once accompanied the old master to Tibet, so it's completely fine. 35. It was already late at night when we arrived in Tibet by transfer. As planned, our group rested at a hotel near Mount Namcha Barwa. When I lay down, my heart was still fluttering slightly with excitement. In my previous 28 years of life, I'd never left my province, let alone visited Tibet, the legendary place closest to the edge of the sky. I was so excited that I barely slept all night, my mind filled with recollections of the itinerary for the next half-month that the old butler had told us about on the road. Just thinking about it makes me so excited. I sent Qin Ming a text message, telling him to get ready and wake up early tomorrow to watch the sunrise. Before dawn the next day, I eagerly knocked on Qin Ming's door. He was already up and seemed slightly nervous when I barged in. Beyond the balcony lay the undulating Himalayan mountain range. Outside, the sky was already turning pale, though the sun hadn't risen yet. The old butler helped me set up my camera, then he stood by watching as Qin Ming and I wandered around, smiling to the bodyguard beside him. Young people sure are energetic. Clouds gathered over the mountain range, slowly tinged pink by the eastern horizon, soon bursting into a magnificent sunrise glow. The sunrise is coming any moment now. We're about to witness the golden mountain illumination. I excitedly tugged at Qin Ming's sleeve and shouted, watching it, watching it. We held our breaths in anticipation. After long minutes, the red sun finally broke through the clouds. At that moment, no, almost instantly, the highest mountain peak suddenly changed color. It's lighting up, look, it's lighting up. The people behind took out binoculars, and the nearby passengers were also excited. Golden light spread downward in large swathes, gradually enveloping the entire mountain range in its glow. The snow-white mountains now glow golden and radiant. The entire sky is a sea of golden-red clouds, with rosy golden light stretching and overlapping, turning the snow-capped peaks into golden mountains, as if stepping into a fairyland. At that moment, a verse by Sushar from class suddenly flashed through my mind. Lamenting the brevity of our lives, envying the endless flow of the Yangtze, wishing to roam with flying immortals, embracing the moon to last eternally. As Qin Ming finished speaking, I turned to look at him, then we laughed together. I saw the Golden Mountain bathed in sunlight. This would become a viral meme 10 years later. As I gazed at Qin Ming, he corrected, we saw the Golden Mountain bathed in sunlight together. They say those who witness the Golden Mountain bathed in sunlight will be blessed with good fortune for an entire year. I persistently finished reciting the trending phrase. Qin Ming tilted his head slightly, but I feel we're not just lucky for a year, we're lucky for a lifetime. I saw him flash that little canine tooth again. Yes, then let's be lucky for a lifetime, then be lucky for a lifetime, Qin Ming, so we can admire this magnificent landscape together. I gazed at Qin Ming as the morning breeze lifted his bangs, the golden light of the sunlit snow-capped mountains reflected in the young man's eyes. His familiar features suddenly carried an unfamiliar, breathtaking charm. Qin Ming was handsome, I'd thought so in my past life too. The boyish innocence was fading from his face. This time when he returned, his expression held not just weariness but also the composure and calmness of someone who'd grown up overnight. It was as if a gust of wind came from nowhere, scattering the golden fragments in his eyes, all falling into the wild-growing wasteland of my heart. No prairie fire can burn it utterly, the spring wind blows it back to life. A single spark can start a prairie fire. Not far away, the old butler made a silent gesture to the bodyguard beside him, then quietly pressed the shutter. 36, these past 2 days. Qin Ming and I simply turned a blind eye to those plainclothes bodyguards and enjoyed ourselves as we pleased. We had Tibetan-style breakfast on Barker Street, watched pilgrims from afar pay their respects, and raised our cameras to document Tibetan customs and culture. Then, at my strong insistence, Qin Ming changed into Tibetan attire. When he saw the shop owner putting on hair accessories and preparing to apply makeup, he jumped up in alarm, spotting me with the camera. He shamefully tried to cover my lens in embarrassment. Too bad I managed to snap the shot in time. I showed the freshly taken photos to the old butler with a laugh, and he promptly pulled me into the frame, handing me a Tibetan robe of similar color to change into. Then it was his turn to gleefully photograph me with the camera. Little deskmate, you look great, really beautiful. Don't cover your face, come on. Smile for the camera. The boss stroked his chin. Would you two like to take a couple's photo shoot? Me, Qin Ming, as we both suddenly turned our heads in unison, looking slightly awkward and unsure how to respond. The old butler chuckled and pulled the boss aside, whispering to arrange one for them. Qin Ming's styling was done quickly. When he lifted the curtain to enter, a stylist was applying my makeup. She brought out a pile of brightly colored hair ribbons and necklaces for me to choose from. Just as I was suffering from decision paralysis, Qin Ming pointed at the bright yellow one. How about yellow? She'd definitely look pretty with a yellow hair ribbon. The shop assistant held it up against me. You're right, your boyfriend has excellent taste. Of course, pears are yellow after all. So pretty. I turned my head angrily, only to see Qin Ming covering half his face with his sleeve while stifling laughter, while the Tibetan sister was braiding my hair. Qin Ming kept watching with his chin propped. She quickly finished one braid by weaving in the hairband, and when she was about to start another, Qin Ming interrupted her. He raised his hand eagerly, saying he'd learned how and wanted to try. Then the sister smiled and gave him her spot. I felt a bit uncomfortable. When my sister sat close to braid my hair, I felt nothing, but with Qin Ming, I kept my legs together, sat up straight, feeling somewhat nervous. Qin Ming must be over 1.8 meters tall, while I'm only 1.66 meters. From a distance, it looked like I was nestled in his arms, a strange yet familiar, youthful yet transitioning into manhood, faintly teasing my most sensitive nerves with his masculine scent. I could even distinctly feel the warmth of Qin Ming's fingertips brushing through my hair and grazing my earlobe. Moreover, he was braiding very slowly with slightly trembling hands. To ease the awkwardness, I made small talk. Xiao Ming, are you really good at braiding hair? You're not just using me as a guinea pig, are you? Of course I am. This isn't my first time braiding. Don't worry, deskmate, I'll definitely make it look extra pretty for you. Not your first time. Then who did you braid for the first time? My little cousin's Barbie doll. I'll hit you if it doesn't look good. Qin Ming coughed. While I was looking in the mirror, my sister came in holding a forehead ornament. Seeing my other braid, she smiled and complimented it, making Qin Ming beam with pride. Then he pulled me and spun me around in front of everyone, showing off what he called his braiding skills. What could the Qin family's bodyguards say? Of course they had to bow their heads, clap enthusiastically, and praise their young master's excellent braiding. Qin Ming was practically being lifted to the heavens with all the praise. Passers-by among the tourists glanced at us. Oh, what a handsome young couple. Upon hearing those words, Qin Ming straightened his back proudly and boldly took me shopping in this foreign land. I could almost see his tail wagging behind him. During the photo shoot, we were both quite shy at first, not daring to move our hands freely, while the photographer kept guiding us through the poses. Come on, don't be so shy, get closer, closer, your movements are too stiff, smile, and don't make it look so fake. Unable to bear it any longer, Qin Ming pressed my head against his chest and glanced at the photographer. Is this better? I stumbled and fell right onto him. The photographer pressed the shutter. The moment the white light flashed, I heard a violent heartbeat. 37. On the second day, we rode horses by Lake Yamdrok. On the third day, after acclimating to the high altitude, we headed to the Padala Palace, gasping for breath. I watched the energetic old butler leading us by a large margin, with a group of bodyguards following closely behind. So, the physical condition of elderly people is truly a mystery. Walk slowly, no rush, let's stop and catch our breath first, otherwise you might get altitude sickness again later. Qin Ming reached out his hand to me. I took 2 deep breaths and grasped his hand. Finally reached the summit of Padala Palace, the legendary palace built for Princess Wenqing, towering majestically and piercing the sky. Having never been exposed to Tibetan culture before, I wandered around with great enthusiasm. While admiring the sights, the bodyguards beside me suddenly turned in unison. The sharp-eared Qin Ming immediately turned around, staring in surprise at the robed monk who had appeared behind us unnoticed. It was an elderly man with white temples, wearing the authentic ochre robes from art pigments. The simplest and most unassuming attire, showing neither ostentation nor pretension. He lowered his eyes. Palms pressed together, sutras chanted within the palace halls, sandalwood incense swirling, distant bell tones echoing. Suddenly I had the illusion that he seemed to be gazing at me from afar. The monk approached us, offered a bow, and signaled to the nearby bodyguards that he meant no harm. He nodded with lowered brows, his weathered face bearing a serene yet aloof kindness, calmly pressing his palms together toward us. The morning dove brings glad tidings. The incense burns strong. Last night's divination revealed heaven's will. An old friend comes this way. Qin Ming slightly furrowed his brows, clearly puzzled. What guidance does the master offer? The monk still kept his eyes downcast. Patron, please step aside for a word. As the monk departed, he cast a deep glance at me. Qin Ming looked at the old man before him with confusion. The monk slowly raised his eyes, gazed at him peacefully, and began to speak. Mr. Qin, this is our second meeting. 38. The sun is rising. Outside the Padala Palace, golden threads gradually engulf the Buddhist niches, while Tibetan monks chant prayers. The young man before them wears only an expression of utter emptiness. Master, I've never met you before. The Tibetan monk lowered his eyes in silent meditation. The first time we met, you climbed 1,000 steps carrying an urn, traveling thousands of miles to pay your respects. Back then, this elderly gentleman was following behind you too. He pointed at the old butler. Those hawk-like sharp eyes still maintained high alert, intently watching this scene. Qin Ming widened his eyes slightly. Master, I can assure you this is my first time here, though I've attended many funerals. Unless it's for immediate family, I wouldn't. Perhaps you've met my late father. The Tibetan monk listened calmly, his ancient well-like eyes gazing at him, making it impossible not to believe his words. Mr. Qin, we have indeed met before, though only in this humble monk's dreams. It may sound absurd, but recently at the third watch of night during meditation, I keep having the same recurring dream. You personally told me your name in my dream. Before coming here, you went through great efforts to inquire about me, and the very day after I returned from my travels, you came to visit in person. The Tibetan monk accurately recited Qin Ming's name and birth details. You sow the cause, you reap the consequence. I too have been pondering why I dreamed of such a scene. It felt as real as if it had truly happened. But seeing you today, you appear much younger than in the dream. Qin Ming instinctively followed up with his question. How old was I in your dream? He appears to be about 27 or 28 years old. Master, are you seeing the future? Do you mean that in 10 years? A loved one of mine will pass away. The Tibetan monk shook his head. It cannot be discerned, it cannot be spoken of, it cannot be seen. This humble monk does not intend to divine the will of heaven, nor do I sell methods to prolong life. I do not know whether it was the past or the future. You once asked me in a dream whether humans can be reincarnated, how Buddha defines good and evil, and whether killers will fall into the Avicii hell. You asked me how much merit the living must accumulate to atone for the sins of the dead and seek heaven's forgiveness. Qin Ming was surprised. In my dream, was I trying to plead for that deceased person to ascend to heaven? The Tibetan monk smiled faintly, his face bearing a rare complexity of expression. No, you said you only wished to beg for an afterlife for that person. Who is that person? Cannot be discerned, cannot be spoken, must not be spoken, the past cannot be undone. But the future can be changed, though I don't know what the current situation is. Since this humble monk has now met you, it means we're still in a state where change is possible. However, Mr. Qin, I must say, no matter how you look at it, this is a dead end, cannot be changed. With that said, this humble monk has matters to attend to and won't take up any more of your time. The Tibetan monk finally pressed his palms together, nodded toward Qin Ming, and turned to leave. This time it was Qin Ming's turn to call out to him, but the gray-templed monk moved swiftly, vanishing in the blink of an eye. The old steward and others hurried forward, while the monks in the hall clasped their hands together, signaling that the elder monk had instructed no disturbances. I stealthily moved closer and tugged at Qin Ming's sleeve. What did that monk say to you? Qin Ming seemed distracted, and when asked, he just shook his head. Nothing, just something strange. The old butler worriedly felt his forehead. Could it be some kind of curse? Afterwards, the old butler hurriedly took us back to the hotel, called over a dozen doctors to examine him one by one, and even brought in several lamas to check for any issues. Fortunately, Qin Ming was unharmed, but the old butler still wasn't reassured and ordered him to stay at the hotel for these 2 days, only allowing him to leave after confirming there were no issues during further observation. 39. The next morning, I listened to Qin Ming complaining about boredom outside the door, pestering the old butler with every trick in the book, wheedling, begging, and acting shamelessly, using all 18 martial arts techniques, only to have them all coldly rejected by the old butler. Even through the door, I can vividly imagine the child pouting, rolling around, and whining, just like when they used to flash their little fawn tooth at me, eagerly begging for homework help. Simply thinking about it is utterly adorable. Who would have thought Qin Ming had such an unexpectedly cute side to him? Ever since tutoring began and he stopped copying my homework, getting to witness his dramatic tantrums again has become a rare treat. Smiling to myself as I eavesdrop, I spread out my drawing paper and begin mixing colors. Outside the glass window of my room lies a snow-capped mountain. These days away have left me refreshed and free from nightmares. The golden sunrise over the mountains a few days ago stirred something within me. Just as I put down my pen and stretched, a voice suddenly appeared beside me. Little deskmate, is this the golden sunrise over the mountains? I was so startled that I almost fell off the stool. Qin Ming quickly reached out to steady me. Once I get into the painting zone, I tend to lose myself and forget about people and things around me. Unbeknownst to me, Qin Ming had pulled up a stool and was watching me paint with his chin propped in his hand. He watched quietly for as long as I painted, exceptionally quiet, well-behaved by my side without disturbing me. I didn't even notice when he sneaked over. I nodded blankly in agreement while Qin Ming stared at me unblinkingly. After a while, he suddenly spoke. Little deskmate, you didn't cry this time. Wait, who told you that you must cry after finishing a painting? Ah. He reached out his hand as if wanting to touch the snowy mountain in the painting, but didn't place it on the surface, leaving it suspended in midair. This one looks nice, he suddenly said. I prefer this one. Not that the other one isn't good-looking, it's quite nice too, it's just, this one feels brighter. That one, moon in heaven, is too oppressive, too gloomy, I added, before Qin Ming could voice any opinion. I pointed at this piece and said, you like it? Then I'll give it to you when I finish painting. Qin Ming's eyes lit up. Really? Then, like a child who just got their favorite toy, he couldn't take his eyes off it, examining the painting from left to right. I must hang it in the most prominent spot. I'll put it in my room. He immediately decided. Hey deskmate, what's the name of this painting? This really stumped me, as I was racking my brains trying to come up with a suitable name. Qin Ming carefully observed my expression and tentatively asked, I have an idea. What do you think about calling this painting Dawn? That might work, but is there any special meaning behind it? At the moment when sunlight gilds the mountain peaks, right at sunrise, calling it dawn would be fitting. Moreover, the golden light in this painting makes one feel full of hope. The past is dark and unattainable, but the path ahead shines bright and brilliant. Wait a minute, Xiao Ming, have you secretly been watching Empresses in the Palace? Qin Ming coughed abruptly, trying to cover his tracks. Besides, this name complements yours perfectly, may our future paths be bright and brilliant, what wonderful symbolism. Wait a minute, my name, Chioli, Qin Ming, you must have heard the back row girls gossiping about the Don CP, didn't you? How could he say that out loud? However, no one could really oppose him. Under the collective voting resolution, though honestly, with everyone being his people, what was the point of voting? Dawn was ultimately decided as the name for this sunlit golden mountain painting. After completing the painting, Qin Ming carefully wrote two names neatly on the back of the canvas, Chioli, Qin Ming, framed and sealed. Before we left Tibet, we hung prayer flags under the snow-capped mountains one last time. Qin Ming urged the bodyguards to buy a large bundle, then led the way by running forward with a prayer flag until he reached the highest point. After surveying the area, he nodded in satisfaction at the chosen spot. I just tied the prayer flags and devoutly pressed my palms together to make a wish. Little deskmate, I've negotiated with the management here. Our prayer flags won't be taken down for decades. Chioli, turn around and look. I turned around, and vast expanses of prayer flags came cascading down over my head. Qin Ming stood atop the colorful prayer flags, positioned on high ground, gazing into the distance as the wind from the snow-capped mountains brushed past his brow. A young man with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, the scenery perfectly splendid. The locals say that each time the wind flutters the prayer flags, it's equivalent to chanting scriptures once, and making a plea to the deities once more. What did I pray to the deities for that day? I prayed for my parents' health, happiness, and freedom from illness forever. I pray for a peaceful and worry-free life, never to repeat past mistakes. Finally, I beg for the gods' mercy, to forgive my sins and not let them affect Qin Ming's lover in this lifetime. I pray for his safety and happiness. I prayed for 3 wishes from one prayer flag. Little deskmate, you're being a bit greedy. Don't laugh at me, look at yourself, you bought so many prayer flags. How many wishes did you pray for? 1. I only prayed for 1 wish. What? So many prayer flags, they're everywhere. You only made 1 wish. Of course I went for the biggest one, I was afraid the deities might not see it otherwise. I only have this 1 wish to make, and this is the only time I'll pray for blessings. 40. After returning, during the remaining half-month, Qin Ming suddenly changed the tutoring plan, saying he would intensively coach me in science subjects. He twirled the pen in his hand, tapped on a major problem, and poked my forehead. Little deskmate, oh little deskmate, this is the 3rd time doing the same type of problem. Without me in the future. The conversation would always abruptly stop at this point. Qin Ming's smile would instantly fade, and his previously cheerful eyes would suddenly fill with melancholy. My heart ached with bitterness, but I forced a smile and handed him the ruler. Then teach me once more, how do you draw auxiliary lines for this type? Both Qin Ming and I were deliberately avoiding this topic. It was a scar, one we were powerless to stop from festering. It was the blade of a guillotine poised to fall. Recently, Qin Ming has been receiving phone calls with increasing frequency during tutoring sessions. These days, whether calculating math problems or agonizing over political questions where every option seems correct, he's frequently interrupted by phone calls from a distance. It seems Qin Ming is talking to his father on the phone. Every time their conversations end in arguments, Qin Ming always had a dark expression when he came back. When I asked him about it, he would just brush me off by saying it was nothing. Then he would pretend nothing was wrong and continue explaining the problems to me. I knew Qin Ming didn't want to leave. The closer the date got, the stronger this restlessness of his became. I didn't dare to think too deeply about why he didn't want to leave, though I was also reluctant to let him go. I could only repeatedly solve complex calculation problems to mask my anxiety. I knew he would leave, sooner or later. He would have to go. I prayed for that day to come a little later. It wasn't until that afternoon after makeup class when Qin Ming suddenly stopped and turned to look at me packing my textbooks. Meeting his gaze, I suddenly had a bad premonition. Qin Ming stared fixedly at me, words rising to his throat several times before being swallowed back. Chioli, I have to leave. This day had finally come. I clutched the straps of my backpack, smoothing out non-existent wrinkles. So soon? Have you settled on a date? He spoke with difficulty. It's settled. When? Tomorrow evening. My father is sending someone to pick me up. I suddenly looked up at him, feeling somewhat wronged. Why didn't you tell me earlier? He avoided my gaze. I couldn't bring myself to say it. My dad gave me an ultimatum. His flight arrives tomorrow. I can't stay any longer. it hurts so much. I feel like there's a huge stone pressing on my chest. I can barely breathe. Qin Ming is leaving, and he'll be gone for at least 5 or 6 years. 5 or 6 years. Huh, such a long time is enough for everything to change. Will he still remember me by then? I really can't recall how I kept my composure that afternoon. I said it was fine, but I won't make it to your birthday this year. I thought of that painting. I've finished painting moon in the sky. I'll bring it to you tomorrow. You must wait for me. Then I ran away without looking back. If I don't leave now, I might start crying. I never thought I'd cross paths with Qin Ming in this lifetime, and originally, I just wanted to earn his tutoring fees. I clearly knew he was leaving all along. Clearly, I knew it from the very beginning. Qin Ming's father sent a private jet to pick him up. They called it picking up. But with all those burly men around him, I think it might have been more like kidnapping. Qin Ming held the picture frame, looking at me earnestly as he repeatedly promised he would definitely return. Little deskmate, wait for me to come back. You must wait for me. With a hoarse voice, I said I would wait, and that he must come back. Before turning away, he secretly slipped me a bank card and a phone. Qin Ming has left. 41. Qin Ming is gone, but life goes on, and studies must continue. As seasons changed and we entered senior year, academic pressure suddenly increased. Deskmates came and went, while stacks of test papers on our desks grew taller and taller. Under high pressure, I've gradually stopped thinking about Qin Ming. There's simply no time. A senior year has truly exhausted me like a dog. The stress has kept me from drawing for so long. Occasionally while solving problems, I lift my head from the books, nearly burying my desk, dazedly wondering if my past life was just a dream. The gossip about the Liming CP eventually faded into the river of history, as classmates cycled through one rumor after another. No one mentions Qin Ming anymore. Now the gossip on everyone's lips is about Sun Ting and Lin Luoshan. If it weren't for seeing Lin Luoshan looking so miserable, and with classmates spreading rumors left and right with such vivid details, I might have actually believed it. Why you? Stay away from me. Keep your distance. I dodged Lin Luoshan in disgust, keeping at least a meter between us. Come on, Xiaoli, you're not really buying into that nonsense, are you? Lin Luoshan wore a wounded expression. Look at you, used to follow me around like a puppy when we were kids, and now you won't even acknowledge your big brother. I greeted them amiably. Go to hell, let's talk business. About what you reminded me last time. I've discovered in the past couple of days, Sun Ting secretly kept 2 of Sun Yanyan's paintings. Lin Luoshan's expression turned serious. There's a lot of art homework, so Sun Yanyan might not have noticed her paintings were withheld, but I carefully examined the 2 pieces Sun Ting submitted for grading. They were Sun Yanyan's earlier practice works. As for the teacher, they were buried at the very bottom. I had to sneak a look. I understood. Sun Ting's father had already colluded with the teachers. I patted him on the shoulder. Classmate Lin, think of a way. Lin Luoshan stroked his chin, lost in thought. I've already warned Sun Yanyan, but with my current capabilities, I still can't stand against Sun Ting. Right now, I don't have any evidence to report either. All we can do is prepare for the worst and leave the rest to fate. Lin Luoshan said not to worry, he would figure something out. It was a rainy night, and I was doing homework in the house. Suddenly, I heard a loud clang from the outer room. A sense of foreboding welled up in my heart, and I hurried out. I went out and saw my mother lying on the ground. Beside her hand was a spilled water cup. 42. I banged loudly on the doors of neighbors upstairs and downstairs. They were woken up angrily and came out, seeing me crying uncontrollably and my mother lying unconscious on the ground with the door wide open. With the help of several adults, they lifted my mother up, and the neighbors were busy finding a car to take her to the hospital. But as we stepped out of the building, a torrential downpour was raging outside, and the water in the low-lying old residential area had already risen to our calves. The underground garage door is flooded too. Old Zhang and old Wang, come with me to find a car. Saving lives is the priority. I held my mother in my arms, crying as I watched the stormy night with lightning and thunder raging before us. The rain today was terrifyingly heavy. Xiao Dazhuang had just left on a business trip 2 days ago. Why did all these unlucky things have to happen today? Call 120, get an ambulance. The rain is too heavy, the garage door won't open. That white car up ahead seems to belong to Unit 3 in the front building. Does anyone know the owner? Please contact them. This is the only car parked in a spot that hasn't been flooded. Hurry, hurry, call 120, call 120 now. Got through, got through. The hospital said to wait a bit, they'll come soon. it's tough driving over in this heavy rain. I think old Chio's wife is having a heart attack. She needs to get to the hospital ASAP. Is there a doctor in this neighborhood? Heavy rain, traffic at a standstill. The panicked crowd chattering noisily with no one taking charge. The one who should take charge is me, her daughter, but right now, apart from staring at my mother's pale, bloodless face, the flooded road ahead, and the neighbors working together to pry open the garage door, I can't do anything at all. Something brushed across my face, pattering onto the ground. I couldn't tell if it was rain or tears, because dwelling on that distinction meant nothing to me now. This is the second time, Chili, the second time. For the second time, Chili. Are you just going to stand there and watch your mother die before your eyes? Though I couldn't control myself, I desperately pinched my own flesh to force myself to stay conscious, gritting my teeth and trembling as I supported my mother, then tapped the shoulder of Auntie Lou, the loudest voice in the room. Auntie, tell Uncle Wang and his wife to go to the building ahead and look for the person with the white car. Ask him for help. Have Uncle Lee stop trying to pry open the garage door and go to the community clinic to fetch a stretcher instead. If we really can't find a car in the end, we'll carry him there ourselves, quickly. Aunt Lou glanced at me. Alright, that's the only way now. Old Wang, you go. Suddenly, a screeching engine sound came from ahead. A pitch-black car came speeding through the heavy rain. The car stopped in front of us. A sleek supercar with beautiful lines. Great, finally, a car. Driver. Please help, driver. Could you take someone to the hospital? The car window rolled down. When I saw that face clearly, I forgot to speak. It was Qin Ming. His tousled hair was soaked, his eyes bloodshot, staring straight at me. 43. I didn't have time to call out to him. Together with others, we carried my mom into the car, and I quickly got in after her. After some discussion among the neighbors, the uncles and aunts next door volunteered to come with us. Shaoli is just a kid. How could he handle this? You all go back first. We'll keep an eye on things. I lowered my head to wipe the rainwater from my mom's face while Qin Ming drove up front. I had no time to ask him how he came back, nor why he suddenly appeared, and couldn't even ask if he was old enough to drive, but strangely, Qin Ming drove with such skill that it didn't seem like he'd just learned. His coordination of the steering wheel and accelerator was practiced. Like an old hand, he drove extremely fast. Like a sleek black panther darting through the rainy night, mature and swift. My mind went completely blank at that moment. My mom was being wheeled into the emergency room. Qin Ming was on the phone on the other side, and I caught fragments like "mobilize personnel" and "send DR, go over." As soon as he finished the call, I quickly averted my gaze, pretending I hadn't been eavesdropping. He walked straight toward me. Qin Ming was wearing a black shirt with disheveled hair. After more than 3 months apart, he seemed like a different person, exuding a composed demeanor. I seemed to catch a glimpse of the future Qin CEO, elegant yet sensual in his bespoke black suit. The remaining points might be due to the still youthful face of this young man, which doesn't quite match. Qin Ming seemed to have grown taller, standing there looking down at me. Chili, thank goodness I made it in time. His eyes were rimmed red as if he'd been crying, staring fixedly at me with what seemed like a smile. It's not too late yet, Chili. 44. Across the ocean, the storm rages against this ancient castle. The unlit room becomes bright as day after the lightning flash. Dressed entirely in black, Qin Ming stared fixedly at the painting on the wall. Outside, the sky rumbled with thunder. Dark clouds pressing down as the world was stripped of all light, transitioning from dusk to midnight in the blink of an eye. It happened almost instantaneously. The painting titled Heavenly Moon emitted an eerie glow from its deep blue oceanic brushstrokes. When the lightning crisscrossed and illuminated, the scene was dazzling with flowing colors. In the very end, Qin Ming opened his eyes. Those were eyes that didn't match a youth's demeanor. Eyes weathered by the storms of time. 45. My mom has safely made it through the critical period. I quickly called my dad to reassure him, but Qin Ming looked at me in astonishment. Your dad is still alive. Of course he's still alive. Why are you talking so strangely today? The nurse said we could visit my mom once she's out of the critical period, and told us to go rest and come back tomorrow. When Qin Ming was taking me back, it seemed like he had a lot to say to me, but after meeting my puzzled gaze, he repeatedly kept silent. In the end, he only muttered one sentence under his breath: as long as you're alive, as long as you're still alive. The Qin Ming who came back was so strange. My father also rushed to the hospital the next day and discussed my mother's condition with the doctor. He sat by the bed sighing, Lily's heart disease has relapsed. The doctor said she needs to stay in the hospital for observation for a while longer. I don't know how it relapsed. The doctor said it doesn't look good, she needs a heart transplant. My vision darkened as I asked how this could happen. I got a second chance at life. I didn't study art. My exam papers weren't switched. My father didn't go to see Sun Ting's dad and get pushed off. My dad didn't die, so why did my mother's heart disease still relapse? I immediately asked the crucial question, how much will it cost? The doctor said it might cost over 300,000 yuan, for now. There's no suitable heart donor available, you just focus on your studies. Kid, don't worry about these things. Qi Dazhuang seemed to age instantly. I'll figure out a way to get the money, if necessary. I'll sell the house and borrow from everywhere. We'll definitely have enough. It felt like I was suddenly transported back to that year when I was begging everyone to lend me money for my mother's treatment. Can't escape it. Still can't escape it after all. 300,000 is nowhere near enough. The exorbitant daily medical and hospitalization fees, plus the substantial post-operative recovery costs, that outdated residential building in our less-than-ideal neighborhood location won't fetch much money anyway. Selling paintings. Sun Ting's breakthrough moment came 5 years later at a competition. The most recent event in that series just concluded, and the next competition won't be until next year. But my mother can't wait until next year. Without competition accolades to gild them, nobody buys my paintings. Modern painters struggle to gain recognition. Without fame, your artwork might as well be a piece of cloth. I walked back all the way in utter despair. I can't just sit here waiting for death. Absolutely not. History repeats its tragedy. What butterfly effect? If given another chance, should I just stand by and watch the accident repeat itself? I took leave the next day and skipped school to go to the construction site where money came fastest. I told the contractor I urgently needed money for my mom's surgery. After much pleading, he overlooked my underage status and agreed to pay me the standard rate. I need money. I'm desperately short of cash right now. I even felt I might resort to crime for money. After that day, my mind was consumed with thoughts of quick cash. Repeatedly testing legal boundaries, I was obsessed. But I can't help it. I'm just too scared, too terrified. School, college entrance exams, these things don't matter to me anymore. I could borrow money, but my mom's illness is a bottomless pit. If something goes wrong, who would keep lending you money? What if my mom loses the will to live because she doesn't want to burden us? Absolutely not, absolutely not, absolutely not. But I was caught just after working for a morning. Qin Ming, looking refined in a clean suit and tie, and I, covered in dust with grimy hands, stared at each other in silence. Qin Ming looked furious, but he tried his best to control it and spoke to me as calmly as possible. Go back, Chili, go back and focus on your studies. Preparing for the college entrance exam is what you should be doing right now. I was also very calm as I said I wouldn't go back. Qin Ming, I'll have other chances to take exams again. But I only have one mother, I shouted at him. My family is my absolute bottom line. I don't care about my future anymore. I don't care about university either. I just want my parents to live well. What college entrance exam, what studying, none of that matters. I want my mom back. I screamed until my voice broke into sobs, still trying to wipe my tears with my hands. Qin Ming pinned down my grimy hands while using his other hand to dry my tears, speaking calmly, you go back and focus on school. I'll handle your mom's situation, I'll find the heart donor. You don't need to worry about anything. I wanted to say something about not accepting unearned favors, that he couldn't just use his parents' money without permission, but he suddenly pulled me into a crushing hug, holding me so tightly it felt like he wanted to merge me into his body. My neck felt warm as liquid trickled down it. Qin Ming was crying. Qin Ming was actually crying. I'd never seen him weep so bitterly. Little deskmate, you must pass the exams this lifetime. You absolutely can't fail again, whether it's Sun Ting or Wan Ting. No one can swap your exam papers anymore. No one can steal what's yours. This time, no one can take away what rightfully belongs to you. My raised hand froze midair. All the words in my heart condensed into one enormous exclamation mark. Qin Ming is back. Did the Qin Ming from my past life also get reborn? 46. Xiaoli never in her wildest dreams imagined that after she set fire to the CEO Qin's fiancé and then took her own life, he wouldn't be so enraged as to scatter her ashes to the wind. Instead, in silent contemplation, he preserved her ashes, traveling thousands of miles to Tibet, cradling the urn, climbing countless steps. He finally met the High Lama. Through extensive charitable works aiding the impoverished and lavish restorations of all sacred temples and churches, accumulating boundless merit, he sought for her favorable rebirth. A fleeting glimpse outside the art studio window over a decade ago, he only remembered the girl's retreating figure and the radiant world on the canvas. Later, when he pointed at that painting and asked about its creator, Sun Ting shyly and silently admitted, "The artist beautiful, her art equally so." From then on, the young man began pursuing her ardently. A decade later, when the graceful painter emerged spectacularly, he glimpsed an old acquaintance's features in the artwork his mother brought home. Reunited once more, the emergence of Moon in Heaven utterly captivated him, as if some unknown magic compelled him to kneel on one knee. Enchanted by her talent and beauty, love arrived so inexplicably yet fervently. Qin Ming's marriage proposal was equally willful. Having endured his father's strict demands and shackles since childhood, he couldn't wait to break free from the cage once his wings were fully grown. Reuniting with Sun Ting gave him the perfect reason to reject the arranged marriage partner his father had chosen. As the wedding day approached, he once stood before the painting for a long time, gazing at Moon in Heaven over and over. For some reason, he found it hard to associate the artwork with Sun Ting. Though he loved that painting, he never really fantasized about Sun Ting wearing a wedding dress for him, but secretly relished seeing his father's furious yet helpless expression. He thought it might as well be this way. Marrying Sun Ting would essentially mean acquiring all her past, present, and even future paintings. The reputation of a renowned artist could also bring benefits to the corporation, so why not? As for love and marriage, if it works, make do; if not, just divorce. Why complicate things? Qin Ming never expected an accident to occur before the wedding. The bride is dead. The tabloids exploded, and social media was nearly paralyzed for days. The final blaze burned away revealing the true author to daylight, a grand, earth-shattering reversal, a decade-long imposture culminating in a death tinged with regret. So it was you who created this masterpiece that shocked the world. What a pity that truth and justice arrived too late. On that rainy night, Qin Ming opened his eyes to Moon in Heaven. Memories from 2 lifetimes intertwined as he collapsed in the ancient castle, burning with fever for 3 days. The moment he woke up, Qin Ming found himself back in his homeland after crossing oceans overnight. He couldn't leave Chiuli, his little deskmate, the very deskmate who had met with tragedy the year he left in their past life. Exam papers swapped, art school rejection, father's death, mother's passing. In just half a year, his entire life turned upside down, plummeting into the mud with no chance of recovery. He absolutely must not let Chiuli go through this again in her lifetime. Because according to the information he later obtained, in the 10 years after Chiuli's parents passed away, she lost everything trying to save her dying mother, ended up homeless living under bridges, got scammed while renting, escaped gang violence. Having lost all hope in life, she took the cheapest labor jobs, suffered workplace injuries on assembly lines, received meager compensation before being laid off, unable to do heavy labor afterwards. She scavenged streets with elderly waste pickers to survive, even fainting from heatstroke on the streets. During what should have been the most beautiful years of a young woman's life, Chiuli lived in utter misery and despair. It seemed she no longer wanted to live properly. Meanwhile, the thief struts through the streets, basking in the limelight as the department's belle at the finest art academy, reveling in applause and bouquets. Sun Ting's university life was utterly pampered, a delicate greenhouse flower with countless protectors, doted on by indulgent parents, sheltered from all storms and worries. The world could be so unjust. Frowning over the documents, Qin Ming finally understood how Chiuli could have created Moon in Heaven, a work brimming with despair and anguish. In her 5th year, Chiuli accidentally encountered the admissions officer from back then, at a tavern. He was boastfully regaling other parents with his heroic feat of swapping exam papers to alter destinies. Overhearing this, her eyes burned with fury. When the crowd dispersed, she cornered him with a liquor bottle in hand. Upon learning the truth of that year, Chiuli nearly went mad. By the time she regained consciousness, she had already been taken to the police station. The admissions officer had his head broken by her, and the guilty yet terrified party chose to settle privately before fleeing. Chiuli sat through the entire night without sleep, her eyes bloodshot. She had brewed a plan for revenge, applying as a studio assistant, designing a reunion with Sun Ting, creating competition-worthy artwork at the critical moment of the art contest, deliberately letting Sun Ting see it, providing opportunities for theft while feigning ignorance. Repeating the cycle, she elevated Sun Ting to the pantheon. Until the emergence of the masterpiece Moon in Heaven, it was only much later that Qin Ming learned that during his dates with Sun Ting, a gaunt figure had silently followed them several times. What was going through Chili's empty, lifeless eyes at that moment? Was it confusion about her former classmate being with Sun Ting, or was she thinking about finally being free? No one will ever know, she's dead now. And these things will forever remain unknown. He didn't have many impressions of Chili. They were desk mates for just a few short weeks before she transferred to the art class. Back then, his gaze never lingered on this quiet, introverted, ordinary girl. A young boy's gaze always follows the most dazzling scenery, Qin Ming tried to recall, but his memories were sparse. Chili was the desk mate he spent the least time with, neither pretty nor outstanding, with average grades, few words, and little interaction between them. During their first meeting, faced with his excessive teasing and the class's laughter, she only flushed red, clenched her pen tightly, and endured the humiliation without uttering a word. Chili was utterly ordinary, with nothing particularly memorable about her. How could the unruly young man ever notice her? But the moment he learned the whole truth, he genuinely felt anger for Chili. All his goodwill towards Sun Ting instantly turned into negative numbers. He couldn't believe there existed such a vile, stupid villain in this world who could bully and harm others to death while remaining shamelessly self-satisfied. Qin Ming didn't even care that he, as Sun Ting's almost married fiancé, had also been humiliated and implicated. He went to the morgue and saw Chili's body, emaciated to the bone. He overheard the forensic examiners discussing, even if it weren't suicide, Chili's young body was already suffering from organ failure. And she wouldn't have lived more than a few years anyway. He was thinking about what more he could do for Chili. The youthful infatuation of his younger days should have belonged to Chili. These paintings and honors should have belonged to Chili as well. Perhaps even the true artist he intended to propose to should have been Chili. But this girl died, pitiful yet clever, having long planned her own death. She drank the poison without hesitation and departed peacefully. What more could he do for her beyond a grand funeral and official recognition from the Art Association? What recompense remained? Pray for her next life. May she never encounter thieves again in her next lifetime. Years passed, and one day after work, President Qin stopped inexplicably before the painting Moon in Heaven hanging in the hall, gazing at it for a long time. Outside, the rain poured down in torrents. Lightning flashed and thunder roared, trees swayed violently in the fierce wind. And the weather was gloomy. When he opened his eyes again, he looked around the ancient castle in astonishment. This was the place where he had stayed during his years studying abroad, and Qin Ming hadn't returned for many years. Then two streams of memories overlapped, a thunderous noise echoed in his head, and he collapsed onto the floor. This was the next life he prayed for Chili. In his past life, he felt indignation and sorrow for her experiences. In this life, he loves Chili and wishes her safety, happiness, and fame throughout the land. But fortunately, in this life he caught up in time. Everything can still be set right. 47. When Qin Ming and I returned, the ward was already filled with a group of white coats. He had gathered the most elite medical teams in cardiac surgery from abroad and domestically, and these doctors and PhDs were discussing treatment plans. I understood Qin Ming's intention. He wanted to reassure me, as he wished. I returned to school, but my feelings toward him are quite complicated now. I truly don't know how to treat him. He's not entirely the classmate Xiaoming I once knew, but rather CEO Qin, whose fiancé I killed in our past life. These past few days I've been restless, completely unsure how to interact with Qin Ming, so I've been avoiding him as much as possible. One day after school, when I went to the hospital to visit my mom as usual, I unexpectedly saw Qin Ming inside, talking to her about something. After hesitating for a moment, I still walked in. Mrs. Li quickly beckoned me over. Lying on the hospital bed, she looked much better in complexion. Holding my hand, she gazed gently at Qin Ming. Lily, we really owe Qin Ming a lot these days. While you were at school, this young man kept coming over. You should thank him properly. I looked at Qin Ming. He was completely different from before he left. Many of his mannerisms and aura had grown closer to that CEO Qin I remembered, making him seem unfamiliar to me. I uttered a stiff thank you, then held my mother's hand and hurriedly averted my gaze. Qin Ming's eyes across from me dimmed slightly. He remained silent for a moment before suddenly striding toward me. I instinctively stepped back, and this movement naturally caught his gaze. He pressed his lips together and automatically stopped about a meter away from me. "Chili, we need to talk." I couldn't help but avoid his gaze. After hesitating for a while, I finally nodded. Qin Ming walked into an empty hospital room, closed the door, turned around and silently stared at me. Under the pressure of his gaze, I opened my mouth wanting to call out to Qin Ming, but the words twisted on my tongue as I faced this familiar yet strange person before me, eventually coming out as Qin, President Qin. Qin Ming's expression changed, but this only made me more resolute. The two people gazing at each other now are no longer the 17-year-old Chili and Qin Ming, but rather the 28-year-old Chili from their past life, introverted and taciturn, and Qin Ming, the newly appointed president who had already taken the helm of Yuanhong Group. I am familiar with Xiaoming, but President Qin is a stranger to me, utterly unfamiliar. Qin Ming let out a sigh, as if conceding, "Fine. For now, let me speak to you in this capacity, Chili." I neither agreed nor disagreed, the two of us, strangers with memories from past lives who had little contact and left no impression on each other, exchanged some information. President Qin briefly recounted what had happened after my death. Indeed, it followed my plan perfectly, and the revenge was executed beautifully. I confessed that the point at which I reincarnated was just a few days before Qin Ming transferred schools. President Qin nodded in understanding and let out a soft laugh. "No wonder." I knew he was referring to the incident where I hit him. I turned my head away somewhat sheepishly. Who told you to say such harsh things back then?" Qin Ming smiled as he begged for mercy. "I was indeed quite unruly in the past. I hope Miss Chiu can forgive this unworthy man, but my little deskmate, that punch you threw back then, could it have also carried some resentment from our past lives, settling old and new grudges together?" When the familiar tone rang out, I was momentarily stunned. It was Qin Ming, yet his voice carried the reminiscence of the adult Qin Ming, leaving me momentarily unable to discern who exactly was standing before me. "Only, you're no longer the youth in my heart." I don't like him speaking to me in Qin Ming's tone. "President Qin, in my past life I held no grudge against you. I apologize for involving you in my revenge against Sun Ting. This matter had nothing to do with you." Qin Ming's expression momentarily darkened with loneliness. He tilted his head with a bitter smile. "As I thought, in that past life, I didn't remember you, and you didn't remember me either. I don't want to reminisce about the past with him." I took 2 steps forward and stared straight at him. "President Qin, when did you return?" Qin Ming explained the whole story. "Moon in heaven, it was actually that painting." I couldn't figure this out, but I did realize one thing. Where has Qin Ming gone? I raised my head, unflinchingly forcing Qin Ming to meet my gaze, word by word. Where did he go? Qin Ming avoided my eyes, turned to pick up a chair and sat down, speaking calmly. "Isn't it better that a naive little boy who couldn't resist his father just disappeared? He couldn't even protect you." Chilly, my pupils suddenly dilated. When I came to my senses, my hand was already on Qin Ming's neck. I had him pinned beneath me, yet his face showed no expression at all. "Give it back, give it back, give him back to me." It took me a long time to find my own voice, to realize these words were coming from my mouth. "Give him back, give him back, give him back, give him back." Qin Ming leaned the back of his neck against the chair, looking up at me, allowing my hands to grip his throat. In those familiar eyes of his was a complex emotion I couldn't comprehend. I now share the same memories as him. I am him. I remember all those things too. I am Qin Ming. Chioli, that's different. You're not him. I screamed at him in despair, but I couldn't bring myself to do it, because he was staring at me with Qin Ming's face, with his eyes. "Why won't you accept it?" Qin Ming sighed. "If I hadn't rushed over, your mother might have been in grave danger. If it were the old Qin Ming, I wouldn't have been able to see you until 5 or 6 years later, and by then it would have been too late." The old Qin Ming was useless. Chioli. I turned his face towards me and stared at him intently. "I've never felt this way, never, whether it was Sun Ting swapping my exam papers and stealing my artwork, or my mother's heart condition. Those were all my own matters. In my past life, I took revenge with my own hands too. I've never expected others to take full responsibility for my life." Saying that is unfair to Qin Ming. He knew nothing about it, yet he's already done his absolute best. "I'm truly grateful that you drove my mom to the hospital, and I also appreciate you finding us doctors and the best medical resources, but you can't devour his personality, use his body, and say such high-sounding words. Classmate Xiaoming is the best, unique. You are two people, two different individuals. Xiaoming is Xiaoming, not someone else." Not even if it's his parallel world self-inheriting memories could make him become that person. How could this be the same? Qin Ming shouldn't be the CEO Qin standing before me. Qin Ming should be the tutoring student sitting beside me, flashing his little canine teeth at me. He should be the giant plushie standing quietly behind me as I paint Moon in Heaven, then embracing my sobbing self with tender comfort. He should be the solitary hero who rushed through dust and wind to meet me that July night. The Tibetan-clad youth who grinned while braiding my hair. He should be the boy beneath the snow-capped mountains who hung prayer flags and scattered lungta for me. But he absolutely shouldn't be the CEO Qin from a past life or parallel world. Even if I inherited his memories, I let go and buried my face in the chair back. The still warm and familiar body beside me now housed a foreign soul. My limbs turned icy. I couldn't feel his warmth anymore. Treating him as a corpse while choking back sobs alone, the corpse reached out to stroke my head, its voice mesmerizing. He loved you, and so will I. Don't grieve. Whatever he could give, I can provide too. We're one and the same. Chioli, I once climbed 1,000 steps to the Padala Palace to seek a high monk for you, praying for our next life. I had sought the wrong person before, but we still have a chance. The one who should marry me this time is you. I pushed him away abruptly. Hurriedly getting off the chair, completely detached, I looked at him and said, "It's impossible, you will never be him, Mr. Qin, this isn't love, it's guilt, but what I, Chioli, need least is someone else's guilt. You've already done so much, you saved my mother, you're my benefactor, naturally, I will repay this kindness, But the logic of this world doesn't dictate that just because you targeted the wrong Sun Ting, I should marry you. That's not how things work. I don't need this kind of compensation, President Qin, please maintain your dignity." I turned to leave but suddenly thought of something. Gritting my teeth, I added, "Also, I've never thought Xiaoming was useless. He's the best, the finest boy I've ever known. He is brighter and more dazzling than all the pigments I've ever seen, a little sun that even the most radiant gold I could mix couldn't replicate." Before meeting him, I thought my entire life would be filled with dark, eerie hues, but Qin Ming barged in recklessly and willfully, parting the dark clouds before me, forcefully opening the window to let sunlight pour in, while I was still dazed. He even smiled at me against the light. President Qin, in both of my lifetimes, Chioli has lived rather thinly and plainly. That act of revenge was the most intense and vivid stroke in my life. When I returned, I only thought about dutifully studying liberal arts, getting into university, becoming a civil servant, and spending a plain, ordinary lifetime with my parents. I slowly turned around, leaned against the door, and calmly looked at Qin Ming, President Qin, you also grew up from that stage. Why should one deny their past? You look down on, you disdain the Qin Ming of the past, but the past you despise is the most vibrant color I've ever seen in my life. Qin Ming stared at me in astonishment. If the former Qin Ming no longer existed, it would undoubtedly mean he had passed away unexpectedly, something I could never accept. That vibrant youthful face would eventually be sealed away by me, becoming the white moonlight I could never see again yet would forever cherish in this lifetime. The person before me had the same face as Qin Ming, yet didn't feel like the same individual. Never him. I've said enough. I don't want to stay in this place any longer. The heavy emotions are suffocating me. As I turned around and placed my hand on the doorknob, a sudden force pulled me from behind. Losing my balance in panic, I fell into his arms. A pair of hands wrapped around my waist from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. I heard a long sigh. Chioli. He didn't call me deskmate, yet my eyes grew warm. This time it was Qin Ming, that Qin Ming from Xiaoming's class. I panicked and tried to turn around, too agitated. Hearing Qin Ming hiss in pain, then came that familiar sensation. I'd gone and bumped into his chin yet again, rubbing his chin with a teasing tone. Qin Ming said, "Hey deskmate, got a grudge against my jaw or something?" His eyes reddened as he gazed at me deeply, an irrepressible smile spreading across his face. "Didn't get enough last time, want me to hit the other side now?" The joy of regaining what was lost nearly overwhelmed my reason, but in the next moment Qin Ming suddenly regained his composure, instantly transforming back into CEO Qin, all adult maturity and cold detachment. Ahem, Chioli, my expression changed, but my keen eyes didn't miss the mischief in Qin Ming's gaze. Suddenly, I realized something. Anger surged to my forehead, and I immediately charged forward. This time I didn't punch him, I headbutt him with an iron head technique. Qin Ming fell back into his chair and began laughing uncontrollably, his laughter filling the entire room. It sounded so grating that it made people want to kick him. Qin Ming kept laughing and laughing until tears welled up in his eyes, only stopping his hysterical laughter after a long while. My expression at that moment must have been absolutely terrifying. Laugh all you want, you can laugh yourself to death here for all I care. I shouldn't have shed a single tear for you earlier, cold-hearted as it sounds. It'd be better if you never came back. Qin Ming hadn't yet recovered from his laughter. But he could tell I was angry. He quickly sat up and, using his height and reach to his advantage, pulled me back with a long arm. Still struggling to suppress his amusement, he tried to coax me while holding back laughter. Little deskmate, you're so easy to tease. My face darkened, and he finally grew a bit more serious, looking at me earnestly before raising his hand. I confess. I just noticed you've been down these past few days, and I was really worried about your mental state. I thought teasing you might help. I glared at him. You're not joking, you're trying to scare me to death. Unexpectedly, Qin Ming suddenly looked aggrieved, putting on a heartbroken expression. I never imagined you'd dislike my past self so much. I was hoping we could rekindle our past romance. I wanted to pinch him, but he covered his chin pretending to be fragile, so I pinched his ear instead. Stop being so narcissistic. If it weren't for Sun Ting marrying you, who would even remember who you are? By the way, why the hell did you marry Sun Ting in your past life? Moon in Heaven was painted by me. If it weren't for me, you would have almost married a thief. Do you know that? Qin Ming? Tears suddenly welled up, startling Qin Ming. He hurriedly lowered his head to wipe my tears, his tone suddenly softening. No. What I didn't know, I didn't really like her that much anyway. When I found out, all I felt was regret for you, in my heart. How could she ever compare to you, little deskmate? I remember now. When I first recalled, I was even relieved that everything had started over. I never expected you to have memories from before too. I was wondering why this life felt different from the last. Xiaoli, I've always been here, whether it's President Qin from the past life or Xiaoming in this one. I've always been here. Xiaoli, I froze for a moment. Then why did you say those things earlier? Why belittle the current you? Qin Ming's expression suddenly turned somber. When I first remembered, I kept blaming myself. Yes, I felt that the me at this stage was still as useless as ever. If I had remembered sooner, I would never have left during senior year. It almost happened again. I was terrified. Qin Ming closed his eyes briefly, then looked at me with bloodshot eyes. Only when he got closer did I see the red veins in his eyes clearly. He hadn't been sleeping well these days. I was deeply moved. But before I could say anything, he suddenly pulled me into an embrace. In my past life, there was a time I didn't want to recall those years. The family arrangements suffocated me, and when I resisted, they sent me here. If not for you, yet during this phase where I despised myself so much, in your heart, I was actually this impressive. His voice choked up, but his eyes curved as he stared straight at me. I originally wanted to abandon my past self and meet you with the most mature and impressive version of myself from my previous life, but I never expected my little desk mate to like me so much. My face suddenly burned hot as I turned his grinning face away, awkwardly avoiding his gaze. Why you must have misheard. This is the most passionate confession I've ever heard. How could I possibly mishear? Though I can't believe you beat me to it. I was planning to be the first to. Well, this works too. Who told you that was a confession? Qin Ming pretended not to hear, still standing there with a silly grin. The door was suddenly knocked. It was a polite knock, yet urgent. Qin Ming's smile paused for a moment. He suddenly tightened his embrace around me, coughed, and said, "Come in." The person outside pushed the door open directly. It was a tall, unfamiliar man, followed by others also dressed in suits and ties. The man had an expressionless face, all businesslike as he said, "Young master, Chairman Qin is here." I felt his gaze sweep over me faintly. "The chairman is summoning you, right now." Chairman Qin, isn't this Qin Ming's father? His father actually came in person. I looked at Qin Ming with concern, only to be shocked to find that his face had already turned cold, with none of the previous tender softness remaining. Switching to the CEO Qin mode from your past life. Qin Ming nodded slightly. Understood, you may leave. The other person remained motionless, and I suddenly felt the atmospheric pressure around us drop. Qin Ming slightly raised his chin, staring at him. "I'll go see them immediately. Get out." The man's expression shifted slightly before he nodded and left. I had just remembered something when Qin Ming held me down. Only after they had completely left did his expression soften as he turned to look at me. He suddenly smiled and reached out to ruffle my hair. "It's fine, don't worry about me. I know how to deal with that old stubborn man. Wait for my good news, little deskmate." Before I could react, he pulled me in and kissed my forehead, then he quickly walked away with strong fleeing suspicions, leaving me standing there in a daze. After a long while, I finally touched my forehead, covering my face while pondering. I used to think I was older than Qin Ming. After all, I had lived many more years than him. It was 28-year-old Chili interacting with 16 or 17-year-old Qin Ming. But now, isn't this equivalent to? The other party suddenly awakened their past memories. Xiao Ming became President Qin, directly surpassing me in status and looking down on me. Overnight, the young Qin Ming suddenly grew up. The adult Qin Ming arrived too quickly. I haven't had time to process it. 48, on the other side, Qin He, nearing 40, was already in a towering rage. As soon as Qin Ming stepped through the door, a stack of documents came flying straight at his face. Qin Ming nimbly dodged and, utterly unfazed, casually walked up to Qin He before sitting down opposite him under the other's astonished gaze. Propping his chin lazily, he gazed at Qin He with a beaming smile. "Long time no see, Dad." I don't know what the father and son talked about, but even from far away, while hiding in the corridor and peeking around, I could hear the sound of a water glass shattering and angry shouts, but from beginning to end, I never heard Qin Ming's voice. Perhaps it was his overly calm tone that provoked his father into even greater fury. Over an hour later, the door was pushed open by a middle-aged man I'd never seen before, his face commanding respect without anger, yet unable to conceal his rage as he strode away swiftly with the man who appeared to be an assistant. Through the half-open door, I caught only a glimpse of Qin Ming's retreating figure, then the remaining people followed inside, and when the massive crowd emerged later, Qin Ming was escorted away amidst their entourage. How about saying take away instead? I retreated to guard my mom. A few days ago it was my dad who kept vigil. Taking advantage of Qin Ming's absence, I stayed by my mom's side, and she chatted with me for a while before falling asleep. Just as I was about to pick up my books and move to turn on the desk lamp to study, my phone suddenly pinged. "Little deskmate, I'm doing fine, don't worry about me." It was a text message from Qin Ming. In the ancestral home of the Qin family, Qin Ming knelt before his grandparents, head bowed in silent acceptance of their reprimand. His back remained ramrod straight, showing no sign of weariness. His demeanor respectful yet inherently rebellious. He absorbed all his relatives' threats, inducements, and earnest persuasions with lowered eyes and pursed lips, as if deaf to their words. The old man in the main seat shook his head at this sight, nodded to Qin He as a signal, and ceased his obstruction. With a single command, two men rushed forward to restrain Qin Ming. Though this restraint was rather superfluous, Qin Ming smiled faintly, offering no resistance whatsoever. His father's rattan cane rose high and came down with a heavy thud. The rattan cane came down, leaving red welts that immediately swelled across the once pampered and fair-skinned back. Qin He's fury had reached its peak. Even though it was his own son, he showed no mercy in the severity of his strikes. After repeated blows, the entire back was swollen. Qin Ming's face turned pale, his forehead beaded with fine sweat, yet he clenched his teeth and refused to utter a word. Every family rule and punishment was invoked. Qin He finally threw down the cane and, seeing Qin Ming still stubbornly enduring, his expression turned completely icy. "Go back now, follow the arrangements properly. As for that girl's mother's illness, I'll have Xiaoxing keep an eye on it. Neither money nor medical resources will be lacking. I'll consider this a youthful indiscretion. Let's put this matter behind us." Qin Ming swayed slightly. "I won't leave." Beside him, Madame Qin felt her heart twist with anxiety. Pale-faced, he repeated, "I want to stay, I'm not leaving." This sentence instantly extinguished Qin He's newly risen paternal affection. As he raised his arm, Madame Qin rushed out to embrace him, weeping. He, stop hitting him, look carefully, that's the son I nearly died giving birth to. He's your son too. How could you bear to? How could you strike him so cruelly?" Qin He hesitated for a moment before finally lowering his hand. "Look at your mother. Can't you stop making us worry so much?" Mrs. Qin crouched down, carefully avoiding the swollen injury. Her eyes filled with heartache. Ming, your father has already compromised a great deal. Be obedient. If you're truly worried, we'll have someone keep an eye on that girl's family. Stop opposing your father. You know he already has high blood pressure. Are you trying to kill him with anger?" Qin Ming remained silent for a moment, then gently shook his head at her. Dad, even if you beat me to death today, I won't change my mind. Even if Chili comes to persuade me, I won't listen. He laughed in extreme anger. I see your love-struck brain is beyond saving. The group won't be handed over to someone obsessed with romance. Since you love her so much, I think you might as well not go. I'll select a more outstanding child from the Chin family to adopt. You want love, right? Then you can forget about the family inheritance too. You refuse to change, don't you? If you don't change today, consider our father-son relationship severed. Everyone thought this had intimidated Qin Ming, or at the very least, the stubborn boy would mirror his father's temper. Declaring the severance of their father-son bond meant just that. Assistant Xiao Zheng's glasses glinted as he thought today's affair wouldn't conclude without a complete father-son rift, yet amidst the heavy silence, Qin Ming actually let out a light chuckle. Dad, those are just words spoken in anger. You wouldn't let the family business decline over a momentary fit of rage. You know perfectly well in your heart that no one is more outstanding than me, whom you've meticulously trained. He was taken aback, his expression softening slightly. Quite the bold tone you have there. Then you should understand even more clearly that the family has high expectations of you. Those who achieve great things shouldn't be shackled by fleeting emotions. Look at what you're doing now. Qin Ming coughed a few times, his voice growing weaker, crystal clear. The children from other families have indeed all been sent abroad for studies. The younger generation truly needs to receive better education to keep up with the times, so they can return and help manage the company after completing their studies. My previous unruly behavior meant that, logically speaking, sending me abroad now is already quite late, however, because my temperament hadn't been reined in. You were worried that sending me earlier would lead to further degeneration without proper supervision. Your decision in this matter was actually correct. He snorted coldly. It must have been quite a struggle for you to figure that out, but father, from the perspective of the known future, staying now is actually wiser than leaving. He turned his head in confusion, while Qin Ming, with sweat dripping down his face, gritted his teeth as he propped himself up on the floor. 2012. This is the critical period of rapid information technology development. I can't leave now. Dad, Grandpa, do you want to take the group's development to the next level? I think our family should also take a step up into higher social circles. In the end, it was old Master Qin who asked Qin Ming to stand up, frowning as he took him, along with Qin He and the 3 generations of their family, into a private discussion in the secret chamber. The Qin family didn't know what had happened. Only that by the break of dawn, the 3 of them slowly emerged, each with complex expressions on their faces, except for Qin Ming, who looked completely at ease. The next day, Chairman Qin and the retired former chairman convened an emergency meeting of the group's shareholders, appointing Qin Ming as the general manager of the RD department of their internet subsidiary company. No one ever mentioned sending Qin Ming abroad for studies again. After the meeting, Qin Ming's grandfather simply told him, if what you said is true, then go ahead and do it. Qin Ming arranged personnel to monitor the progress of the surgery, then swiftly and decisively reformed the company's systems, hiring and dismissals, dispatched technical teams to advanced countries for exchange programs. A series of transformation measures were immediately implemented. 2012 was indeed a turbulent era, marked by the widespread adoption of smartphones, large-scale production of various brands, and the development and operation of intelligent software, all unfolding over the following decade. 49, Qin Ming returned a week later, rushing to reassure me of his safety. Little deskmate, don't worry, once the trial testing of the smartphone passes the board of directors and goes into production, I'll finally have some free time. Qin Ming didn't hide it from me. He said he vaguely hinted to his family about his reincarnation, which made them focus more on the growth of their family business. But would they believe it? Reincarnation sounds like something out of a fairy tale. I wouldn't dare tell my parents. They're staunch materialists and would never buy it. Qin Ming ruffled my hair and smiled as if coaxing a child. Of course they didn't believe me. I framed it as analysis and predictions about the future. They couldn't outright deny the possibilities I described. Besides, they've watched me grow up. They've noticed how unusually I've been acting lately, so they were already suspicious. I stammered. Then does this mean you won't have to leave anymore? Qin Ming paused while ruffling my hair, making me nervous as he carefully considered his words. I'll still have to go eventually. Studying abroad is necessary to expand my network. But I don't need to leave now, at least not until after your college entrance exams. We'll discuss the specific arrangements later. Once they see my capabilities in the coming days, they'll probably let go like in my past life. Either way, I'm absolutely determined to include you in my life plans. No matter if they oppose it now or not, they won't be able to control me after some time passes. Planning you into my life. This line made me blush, and I awkwardly turned my head away. Seeing this, Qin Ming pulled me into his embrace. To put it simply, Qin Ming, with his adult memories, no longer plays the shy game. Every time I'm alone with him, I get so nervous I don't know where to put my hands and feet. Damn it, the days when I could tease Xiao Ming are already a thing of the past. The shy boy, covering his neck and blushing to the tips of his ears, felt like he was being devoured by Qin Ming. Now it's me who's being made to blush in embarrassment. The tables have turned. Can we keep going like this? No way, I tried to struggle. Qin Ming, you can't, little deskmate. This time I can stay by your side, for a lifetime, and never let anyone bully you again. After saying this, he buried his head in the crook of my neck, and my remaining words were swallowed by this tight embrace. Outside the window, tree shadows dance gracefully in the green woods with a gentle breeze. It's a lazy afternoon during the transition between spring and summer. The college entrance exams are coming soon. 50. The story of this lifetime is heading toward a happy ending. Qin Ming is probably my destined benefactor, my savior reborn. A heart donor has been found for my mom. The surgery was successful, and the doctor says she just needs some time to recover before being discharged. My mother leaned on the hospital bed with a smile and said, counting the days, it should be around the time Shelley finished her college entrance exams. Busy running around for my mother's affairs during this period, I suddenly realized with horror that the art school entrance exams were already over. I also heard Sun Ting did quite well, and thinking of the delicate Sun Yanyan, I couldn't help but feel anxious. I called Qin Ming and asked him to keep an eye on this matter. Whose exam paper did Sun Ting switch this time? Sun Yanyan. I'm afraid Sun Ting has already swapped papers. There's no way she could have scored this well with her level. Wait a second, Qin Ming froze. You mean Sun Yanyan, the one from art class 1? I quickly nodded, not understanding why Qin Ming suddenly smiled. Then she's done for. Who's done for? Who would have thought Qin Ming would laugh gloatingly? Sun Yanyan's father is the municipal party secretary. Seems Principal Sun didn't do his homework when investigating backgrounds. After the joint exam results were announced, Lin Luotian privately handed a phone to Sun Yanyan. He had secretly recorded from a corner that day. Though the phone's resolution was poor, it was enough to prove someone had swapped her exam papers. Sun Yanyan fiddled with the phone, smiled and said thank you, then passed it to the department head beside her. The next day, news that Principal Sun bribed proctors to secretly swap art major exam papers spread like wildfire. According to others, Sun Jichuan had already been dismissed and investigated, while Sun Ting was blacklisted by Lucerne Academy of Fine Arts for exam cheating, a serious offense resulting in 3-year suspensions for both that specific exam and regular higher education admissions. Sun Yanyan's father must have put in considerable effort here, as they came to thank me once, because of my early warning. Sun Yanyan was prepared and had secretly gathered evidence of Principal Sun's communication with exam proctors, with both testimonies and material evidence secured. They successfully brought down the Sun father-daughter duo in one fell swoop. Sun Yanyan gave me a hug. The gentle, soft-spoken girl murmured, Shaoli is such a good person. Qin Ming stood beside her with a bitter and resentful gaze, rolling his eyes incessantly. Shaoli, why is Qin Ming like this? He seems to dislike me. I just wanted to get closer to you. Damn green tea bitch. Sun Yanyan slightly furrowed her delicate brows. Green tea. I panicked for a moment. Green tea is a term that won't become popular until the future. How would anyone know what it means now? So I quickly hugged Sun Yanyan and pretended to scold Qin Ming. Don't talk about Yanyan like that. She's so delicate. What if you make her cry? Sun Yanyan took the opportunity to collapse into my arms, sniffling and sobbing. Girls are so sweet and soft, so adorable. Qin Ming's eyes widened as he pointed at her in disbelief, raising his voice, weak. You call her weak? Sun Yanyan once knocked me to the ground with a spinning kick when we were kids, and you call her weak? Hearing this, Sun Yanyan shot Qin Ming a sinister glare. Qin Ming refused to be outdone. I was stunned. So Sun Ting was hospitalized with a fracture because of you. Nian Nian, I heard she couldn't even lift her hand. Sun Yanyan gently twirled my hair around her finger and said softly, a thief deserves to have their thieving hand broken. Qin Ming raised an eyebrow at me. My dad and I kept feeling relieved on our way back from the Su family celebration banquet. Hey, isn't it lucky we didn't let you study art? If Sun Ting had stolen your paintings, then wouldn't it have been? Qiu Dezhuang suddenly fell silent. I calmly held his hand and shook my head at him. Dad, that day will never come, never. Qin Ming's voice from the front passenger seat was unprecedentedly serious. Dad, that situation absolutely won't happen, with me here. No one can replace her painting. Who the hell are you calling Dad, you brat? I didn't have many friends in my past life either. After Sun Yanyan dealt with Sun Ting, she started coming to my place every few days, saying she wanted to hang out. Before long, we became quite close. She offered genuine and heartfelt praise for my painting. Hey Shaoli, actually you could try other forms of painting. My uncle's company is urgently in need of a character design. Why not give it a try after your college entrance exams? I think that's feasible. I'd like to try painting something different too. The recent news is truly uplifting. Sun Ting and Sun Jichuan have been punished, and my mother's condition has improved. The good news of 2 lifetimes overwhelmed me. And in this atmosphere of overwhelming joy, we welcomed the college entrance exams. 61, sitting in the examination hall, listening to the broadcast of examinee guidelines, I felt an unreal sense of déjà vu, as if returning from a distant midnight dream. The time I set fire to the Sun family seems like a lifetime ago, the past like fleeting smoke, as if it were all just a grand dream. The electronic mechanical sound rings out. Examinees may now begin answering. Inside the classroom, diligent students write furiously. A decade of study and honing skills culminates in this decisive battle. Beyond the window lies the boundless sky and endless earth. Dawn and night alternate, all things grow and wither, as the cycle of 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, unfolds in this world. My life is far more than just these 10 years before me. I walked through a decade-long night, finally seeing the dawn, and thereafter, boundless light. Epilogue. Award ceremony of the 25th International Vinci Painting Competition in 2014. The Gold Award was won by M.S. Liming, a recent graduate from the finance department of Fudan University in China and a new generation painter. Qin Ming watched from below as Qiu Li delivered her speech on stage, radiant and the center of attention. His eyes welled up with tears. They all laugh at me, calling me the green leaf or sidekick by Sun Ting's side. The Moon in the Sky is a work deeply connected to my bloodline. As Eileen Chung wrote in Love in a Fallen City, the moon on the sea is the moon in the sky, and the person before you is the one in your heart. Some live in high rises, some dwell in deep ditches, some shine brilliantly, some are covered in rust. Each of us stands on solid ground, looking up at the moon in the sky. Every down-to-earth, persistent striver will become the bright moon in the sky that others look up to. Finally, I want to thank someone here. Without him, there would be no Qiu Li today. With both parents alive, safe and happy. Qin Ming, my dear classmate, you are the dawn that saved my life. The spotlight fell on the stunned Qin Ming in the audience, the zoomed-in camera clearly capturing the young man's suddenly reddened ears. The high-profile love declared before a full house ultimately faded into the surging crowd and thunderous applause. Over the sea, the moon rises bright, we gaze at it far apart, yet share this sight.